Wizard of all souls. Explore the world, understand the world, and change the world. I, the soul of everything, the perfect creature, the end of the evolution of all life. I, the beginning of everything, the end of everything, control the past and the future. Will, an ordinary wizard, uses knowledge as a fulcrum and power as a lever to pry the truth. Chapter 1. Perhaps luck is the most powerful force in this world. Early morning. Will was dressed in white gown pajamas with a gold sash around his waist. Holding a tall glass in his right hand, the red liquid inside was slightly rippling. Will leaned lightly on the balcony railing of Albert Castle, his delicate face and forehead were slightly frowned, and there was unconcealable melancholy in his brown pupils. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. In Albert Castle, under the balcony of Will's bedroom, there is an open space. At this time, 17 teenagers were doing morning exercises in the open space. Among the 17 teenagers, the oldest one was 20 years old. The young one is only 12 years old. Is Nicken the team leader again today? Will took a sip of red wine, his eyes fixed on the boy named Nicken. Nicken has soft flaxen hair, brown eyes, firm eyes, and a strong physique. It looks about 7 or 8 points like Will. Will is familiar with Nicken. Because Nicken is Will's half-brother, 1 year older than Will, and he is 16 this year. Although Nicken is Will's half-brother, the status of the two is very different. Will is the legitimate son of Baron Leo, the third most beloved son of Baron Leo, and the legal heir to the Baron. Since his birth, Will has been loved by thousands of people. Nicken is quite different. Nicken is only the son of Baron Leo's mistress. There are more than a dozen sons and daughters like Nicken in Albert Castle, and their status is just a little higher than that of ordinary servants. Men, if they are talented in swordsmanship, they can join the guard team, maybe they can become the captain. Women, if they are good-looking, can be married. If not, give some money and fields, send out the castle, and let it fend for itself. Apparently, Nicken isn't among that bunch of crap. Nicken is now the strongest among the younger generation of Castle Albert. Nicken, who is only 16 years old, is already a quasi-knight. Once, the owner of the title of number 1 was Will. I should be above Nicken in terms of talent, hard work, and pedigree? Then why is Nicken's strength surpassing mine? Because it's 1 year older than me? Will was puzzled. But Nicken, the power of life was inspired a year ago, at the age of 15. This world is similar to the Middle Ages in the west of the earth. There are kings, there are titles, there are knights. But different. Because the knights of this world have a power far beyond that of ordinary people. Not only that, but there are orcs, trolls, dwarves, and other races in this world. Will once thought that he had come to a world of vindictiveness and magic, but unfortunately he was not. Just like the earth, in this world, magic only exists in myths and legends, and battle chi doesn't even have a shadow. However, this world has a power similar to fighting chi vitality. By practicing night breathing, you can discover your own potential. When the night's breathing method is cultivated to a certain level, it can stimulate one's own vitality. After stimulating the vitality, the attack, defense, and speed can all be explosively increased. However, the so-called vitality, in Will's opinion, is not very good. It is far from the legendary magic grudge. Stimulating vitality is just a burst of powerful power in an instant. Remote attack? Tuki turned into wings? Heaven and earth? Don't talk about this, even a simple enhancement of healing speed can't be done. The so-called stimulation of vitality is more like a special technique of exerting force. But even so, he could beat the previous Olympic champion. Well. Will sighed, and stroked his chest with his left hand. A translucent panel that only Will can see appeared in front of Will. On the panel, there are 3 lines of writing. Primary swordsmanship, level 3. Beginner archery, level 2. Knight's breathing, level 1. Will's consciousness clicked lightly on the column of night breathing method. Upgrade Knight's breath, yes/no. Yes. Insufficient energy. Upgrade failed. This is an ability that Will got after he was reborn into this world. Because Will is from a blue water planet, the ability needed to upgrade skills in this interface is source power, so Will called this interface Blue Spirit. 15 years. It's been 15 years. Will owns Blue Spirit and studies Blue Spirit for a total of 15 years. But what exactly is Yuan Li? Look at the top of the Blue Spirit's translucent interface. Source power, 0. Will's heart is broken. The first time I experienced the joy of time travel, the first time I had the excitement of the system, 2 joys. Could it be that the function of the blue spirit is only to display skills? Just to let me know the level of skills? Will was full of excitement. Tangled. For so many years, Will has never been able to figure out what source power is. How can we increase the source power? It took a while for Will to regain his peace of mind. Since God gave me a second life, how can I expect so much? Will felt that instead of pursuing illusory things, the power in front of him is the most real. Since Landling is unreliable, he can only work hard to improve the level of night breathing. In this world, nights are divided into 4 levels. After practicing the night breathing method and being able to beat 10 strong adults, he can be called a reserve knight. Will is now at the level of a reserve knight. Practicing chivalry, which can stimulate vitality, is called quasi-knight. Above that, is the knight. Becoming a knight is already a strong side. There are only 5 knights in Baron Leo's territory, including Baron Leo himself. People with the strength of knights will receive courtesy no matter where they go. And the great knight who is stronger than the knight? As far as Will knows, great knights are rare even in the entire Cairo Empire. And in the province of Doria in the southwestern part of the Cairo Empire where Will is located, it is said that in the entire province of Doria, only the family of the Earl of Garley has a great knight. Whether it is a knight or a great knight, they are too far away from Will. What Will should consider now is how to stimulate his own vitality and become a quasi-knight. Thinking, Will looked at the 17 teenagers who were exercising in the morning under the balcony. Especially the leader Nikan. Although Nikan is 1 year older than me, due to my talent, hard work, pedigree, teachers, resources, sparring and other reasons, my strength has always been superior to Nikan. Captured the title of number 1 young generation at Castle Albert. At the age of 15, he stimulated his vitality and became a quasi-knight, which can be called a genius. Even the best among the knights, Will's father, Baron Leo, only successfully stimulated his vitality at the age of 16. This made Baron Leo, who is usually taciturn and cherishes words like gold, appreciate Nikan. How does Nikan inspire vitality? Nikan and Will are different. Will is the legitimate son and the heir to the title of Baron Leo. All Will has to do is to enjoy himself and exercise well. As long as he doesn't die or make big mistakes, he can inherit the title. Strength is only secondary. Nikan is different. Nikan needs to prove itself with strength. Nikan needs to keep working and fighting to reflect its own value. A year ago, Nikan followed Leo Knight to wipe out a group of robbers who broke into the territory. During the battle, Nikan accidentally hit an arrow. The arrow shot straight into Nikan's chest, and the arrow was coated with poison. Nikan wandered between life and death for 3 full days before his high fever receded, and he rested for another month before his body recovered. But Nikan is not for nothing vitality. Isn't it better to struggle between life and death if you want to stimulate your vitality? Will frowned. I, the 3rd son of Baron Leo, the heir to the title, why would I do such a stupid thing? Will, who has died once, has an unimaginable attachment to life. Even if I practice step by step, up to 3 years, I will be 100% it can stimulate vitality and become a quasi-knight. Will would never do such a stupid thing as betting his own life. Will stroked the railing, and the cold dew on the railing made Will even more calm. Actually, there's no need to do that. Will thought about it carefully. I've grown up so much, it seems like I haven't really fought yet. On the one hand, because of the favor of Baron Leo. On the other hand, it is out of Will's cherishment of his own life. This has led to the fact that in Will's 15 years of career, he has never encountered a life-threatening situation, nor has he ever fought with a human being. Don't look at Will's swordsmanship is very good, and the knight's breathing method is also well practiced. Will is still very self-aware. In a real life and death struggle, 1 Nikan can beat 3 like Will. It seems that we need to accumulate a little combat experience. After all, Will is also a man who is in puberty and has strong hormones. Will is still very interested in fighting and fighting. Rather very interested. Otherwise, Will, an ordinary office worker in his previous life, would not have worked so hard to cultivate after he came to this world. Even in the 3 years of the college entrance examination, Will never worked so hard. Swordsmanship, knights, alien races, this world is so exciting and interesting, if I don't explore it, how can I be worthy of the second life that God gave me? This world is dangerous. Will understood this. Therefore, Will decided not to travel and adventure around the world until he became a knight. With Will's talent and hard work, he must be able to become a knight before the age of 30. By then, Will was also married and had a baby. There is strength. There are future generations. No more worries, you can do what you want to do to your heart's content. Before that, let's talk to Father Baron Leo. I heard that there are thieves living in the territory recently. It should be very helpful for me to take this opportunity to really fight, kill people, and feel the cruelty of a battle. Maybe it can relax my current cultivation. Will downed the red wine in the glass, went back to the room, and rang the bell. After a while, a young girl with a beautiful appearance, long hair, and shawl, wearing a maid's costume trotted into the room. This maid is named Tracy, 2 years older than Will, and is Will's personal maid. Responsible for taking care of Will's life and conducting enlightenment education for Will in all aspects. Master, what's the matter with you? As soon as she entered the room, the maid Tracy immediately bowed her waist, with a sweet smile on her face. Where is my father, Baron Leo? Will asked. The Baron is talking with Sir Grote Knight in the study. The maid Tracy replied immediately. Knight Grote is one of the 3 knights conferred by Baron Leo. He is responsible for helping Baron Leo manage a knight collar and has the strength of a knight. Help me prepare, I want to meet my father. Yes. Chapter 2. Will was wearing a gold-encrusted black dress, long leggings, and shiny black leather boots on his feet. His hair was combed black and shiny, his eyes were shining brightly, and he looked extremely energetic. Will put his arms around the maid Trish, gave a satisfied kiss, and walked out of the room. Outside the door is a narrow staircase spiraling downwards. Early in the morning, the whole castle was busy. Cleaning, running, commanding, every servant and guard perform their duties. When Will walks by, the servants would stop what they were doing and bow to Will, who would sometimes nod. At this time, a short white figure rushed from a distance and crashed into Will's arms. Ouch! The little girl cried out in surprise. Emma, how many times have I told you? Don't run around in the castle. Will scolded the young girl in his arms in a low voice. The young girl was wearing a white pleated lace dress and moccasin boots on both feet. She had a delicate face and her waist-length curly long hair was scattered behind her in a mess. She looked like a carefree little princess. Know it? Emma replied crisply, then broke free from Will's arms, and ran around the castle again, laughing loudly like bells as she ran. This girl. Will shook his head helplessly. Emma is Will's own sister, only 10 years old. Emma is similar to Will, who is loved and loved by thousands of people. So since he was a child, he didn't know what hard work is, and what worry is. Just seeing Emma's heartless smile every day, Will felt that his whole body was healed. In Will's heart, only Emma and his mother who passed away 2 years ago are his relatives in the whole world. Whether Baron Leo or the other brothers, they are all just people of similar blood. After separating from Emma, Will came to the study on the 2nd floor of Albert Castle. Outside the study, 2 soldiers in full armor stood guard at the door. The armor of the 2 soldiers was mottled, with sword marks, and the scabbard had traces of dried blood. Obviously, as the personal bodyguards of Baron Leo, both of them are experienced fighters. Noticing Will's arrival, the 2 guards, who had grim faces 1 second, immediately showed flattering smiles the next second. Regarding the heir to the title, the most beloved son of Baron Leo, and their future master, the 2 guards still knew what to do when facing Will. Master Will, do you need us to inform you? Entering the study early in the morning, 2 personal guards were also waiting at the door. It is not difficult to guess that Baron Leo is discussing an extremely urgent and important matter with Knight Grote. In fact, it doesn't matter if Will breaks in without notifying him, Baron Leo will never blame him. But Will didn't want to appear like a dandy who didn't know how to be polite in front of others, especially in front of Knight Grote, an important subordinate in the future. Possesses the strength of a knight and can be reused no matter where. Will is still very concerned about the knights under his father, Baron Leo, who may become his capable men in the future. After getting Baron Leo's answer, Will pushed open the heavy iron door of the study and walked in. In the huge study room, there is only 1 and 3 bookshelves, and hundreds of books are scattered on the bookshelves. In this world, books are extremely expensive. The accumulation of the Albert family for hundreds of years is nothing more than 100 books. Beside the large window in the study, there is a long wooden table. At the head of the wooden table, a tall man sat upright. The man was wearing a tight-fitting aristocratic uniform, his muscles were knotted under the clothes, his eyes were fierce, and he was calm and majestic. This man was Will's father, Baron Leo. Next to the main seat is a man with a dark face, which is the Groat Knight. My lord, the Evelyn family is going too far. According to the agreement, the iron mine on the east side of Dulu Island should belong to us. It's not enough for them to occupy the west side, yet they dare to pay attention to our east side. Groat Knight's voice was high and cold. How's the situation? Baron Leo said expressionlessly. 10 days ago, 3 of our brothers were injured. Nuasha was shot by a poisoned arrow in one of her thighs, and she will not be able to walk for the rest of her life. Knight Groat said angrily. Is this the work of wandering robbers? Tisk tisk, we all know what's going on, that bastard Becky Evelyn, don't think that I can't recognize him if he covers his face. Knight Groat's face became more and more gloomy. The Evelyn family and the Albert family are adjacent to each other, and both of them are barons. In the past, the Albert family was often bullied by the Evelyn family, but after the rise of Baron Leo, everything changed. In terms of strength on paper, the number of knights is about the same. But the head of the Albert family is Baron Leo. Although they are both knights, the strength of Baron Leo is not comparable to that of ordinary knights. The Evelyn family? It seems that we should show them some color. Baron Leo snorted coldly, the anger in his eyes slowly burning. Then what shall we do? Groat Knight smiled cruelly. Get ready and leave in 3 days. Yes. Knight Groat excitedly said. After speaking, Knight Groat got up and exited the study. Groat and Will pass each other. But until Groat walked out of the study, he didn't look Will in the eye. Will couldn't help feeling angry. For a long time, Will has always treated the several knights of the family with extra courtesy. But except for Neeson, the captain of the guards who was stationed in the castle, the other 3 knights never looked Will in the eye, and when they had to, they just nodded, and they didn't even want to call Master Will. Strength, I need stronger power. For the thoughts in his heart, Will became more determined. Will, what do you want from me? When facing Will, Baron Leo smiled rarely. Baron Leo joined the army when he was young, experienced the Battle of the Kingdom, made great achievements, gained a great reputation, and even got the Knight Badge awarded by the kingdom. After retiring and returning to inherit the title, Baron Leo swept away the previous decline of the Albert family and led the Albert family to triumphantly. The 4 knights in the territory are all recruited by Baron Leo. For those knights, Baron Leo was probably the only one who could catch their eyes in the territory. When Will become a baron one day, whether those people are willing to stay or not is still a matter of opinion. After Will sat down, he immediately expressed his thoughts to Baron Leo. Father, I feel that my strength has reached the bottleneck, and there is no point in continuing to practice, so I want to go out to exercise with my father. This time the battle between Dulu Island and the Evelyn family, take me with you. Will, the tone is sincere and firm. Will believed that Baron Leo would definitely agree. No. Contrary to Will's expectations, Baron Leo actually refused. Will's face darkened suddenly. Why? Will asked. Other members of the family will participate in hunting and exorcising beasts at the age of 12, and form a small team to patrol the territory at the age of 15. I am 15 years old this year, and my strength has reached the peak of the reserve knight. I think I should fight and temper myself. Will's cold questioning tone made Baron Leo's face suddenly ugly. It's been too long since anyone dared to talk to him like that. But when he thought that the other party was Will, most of the anger in Baron Leo's heart disappeared at once. Will, my son, you are the future head of the Albert family and the only heir to the title. The most important thing you should do is to protect yourself and fight, wait until you become a quasi-knight. Baron Leo said in a tone there is a trace of helplessness in it. Why doesn't Baron Leo feel that what Will said makes sense? Back then, when he was Will's age, his hands were already stained with blood, and he had wandered between life and death several times. But, Will can't. Baron Leo would never allow Will to be in any dangerous place. In fact, the former Baron Leo was not like this. Until, Will's eldest brother who dreamed of becoming an adventurer disappeared forever, and there was no news for 10 years. Until, Will's second brother, who aspired to be like Baron Leo, died in the army. Until, Will's mother, Baron Leo's favorite person in his life, died of depression because of the severe blow caused by the death of her 2 sons. Then, the Baron changed. The Baron's calloused right hand gently covered Will's head, and Baron Leo's eyes were full of doting and guilt for Will. Will, your mother must also want you to live well. Speaking of Will's mother, Baron Leo's eyes flashed with pain. Knowing that Baron Leo had made up his mind, Will had no choice but to leave. Looking at the lonely back of Will going away, Baron Leo sighed, Delia, did I do something wrong? Belle, Lean and you left me one by one. Now, I only have Will, I can't lose him again, and Emma. Walking out of the study, Will took a deep breath. Will wasn't about to give up. Nicken's transcendence and Grote's knight's contempt made Will's innermost desire for power stronger than ever. Baron Leo doesn't allow it, can't I go quietly? Baron Leo will leave the castle for a period of time in 2 days. Will took this opportunity to sneak out for some exercise. Based on Will's status and Baron Leo's love, even if Baron Leo found out afterwards and got angry, he would not do anything to Will. Before that, I can't let my body rust. More important than strength is life. When Will went out this time, he didn't want to experience life and death, and definitely didn't want to break through between life and death. He just wanted to increase his combat experience and be in an intense and exciting combat environment. The ancients said it well, if you want to do a good job, you must first sharpen your tools. I must not be slack in the slightest. Will moved his body, because I have been thinking about how to break through, I haven't been exercising well these days. The body is almost rusted. After going back to his room and changing into a looser exercise suit, Will came to the open space, ready for morning exercises. Chapter 3. Albert Castle is divided into 2 floors. The outermost is the moat, and after passing the moat is a 5-meter-high wall. After entering the wall, a castle stands in the center of the open space, called the inner castle. Will walked out of the inner castle and walked towards the place where the reserve cavaliers were training. The reserve cavaliers are all young people. Some of them are teenagers from nearby villages, some are the sons of baronial nobles, and some are wandering orphans. As long as you are talented, can afford the money, or sign a prostitution agreement, you can receive knight training in Albert Castle. Those who have successfully trained can join the escort team. If the talent is amazing and you become a knight, you can become a knight and obtain a territory. Even if you don't have enough talent, you can become a hunter after you go out. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. At this time, on the training ground, 17 teenagers were holding swords, waving them with every move. The moves are simple, yet powerful. On the side, idle boys and girls stared enviously at the boys in the training ground. The man has envy and admiration in his eyes. Females have mostly admiration in their eyes. Among them, the eyes that fall on Nicken are the most and the hottest. Many girls' cheeks were flushed, and they looked at Nicken with fiery eyes, their snow-white legs rubbed against each other, and their eyes were full of glances. Even the maids working in the castle stopped from time to time and cast fiery glances at Nicken. In this regard, Nicken remained unmoved and still devoted himself to training wholeheartedly. When Will arrived at the practice field, the sun was well over the top of the mountain. The warm morning sun spread over everyone, as if covering them with a layer of golden veil. When Will showed up on the training ground, all eyes around him suddenly focused on Will. It's just that most of these gazes are in awe and admiration, and only a few of them contain love. Because everyone present knows that Will and Nicken are different. They can freely express their love to Nicken, and they can muster up the courage to pursue Nicken. But when facing Will, he couldn't do that. I dare not do so. Do you dare to express your love to Will, Albert's future head and heir to the Baron? Dare to pursue? What if it angered Will? What if Will hates him? What if Baron Leo thinks your behavior is bad and thinks you will have a bad influence on Will? Whether it was Will or Baron Leo, they could easily fall into hell. However, this idea is limited to people whose status is too far apart. A white gold figure, holding the hem of the skirt gracefully with both hands, trotted towards Will. A head of platinum blonde hair shines brightly under the sunshine, a delicate face with a charming smile, and eyes full of affection. Master Will. Betty put her arms around Will's right arm and called out in a sweet voice. Betty was wearing a light off-the-shoulder camisole on her upper body, a white princess dress on her lower body, and silk-tied high-heeled women's boots, which made her snow-white legs more slender and beautiful. Clear double ponytails make Betty look more youthful and pleasant. I still have to train. Will gently pushed Betty away, who was clinging to him. Betty's overzealousness made Will a little unbearable. Before training started, Will already felt hot all over. Master Will? Betty took Will's hand coquettishly, shaking it constantly, her face showed a grieved expression, Her eyes were full of hot water. Although he knew that Betty was mostly acting, but seeing such a lovely girl acting like a baby to him, Will couldn't help but soften his heart. Will pinched Betty's nose. After training, let me see if your massage skills have improved. After hearing Will's words, Betty immediately smiled. Betty is a distant relative of Baron Leo after the family's downfall. Her status in Albert Castle is higher than that of ordinary servants, but it is also limited. Therefore, Betty has always wanted to please Will, and expressed her dedication to Will many times. Because Betty knew that in Albert Castle, there were only two speakers. One is Baron Leo. One is Will. Only by being loved by Will can she live a better life. Facts also proved that her idea was correct, and Will had promised Betty several requests before. To Will, these few requests were nothing more than insignificant things, but they did greatly improve the life of Betty's family. Seeing that Betty is deeply loved by Will, the other servants also gave Betty 3 points of courtesy. Will stared at Betty with fiery eyes. Sensing Will's reaction, Betty hugged him even tighter, and moved her face closer to Will. Betty's warm breath blew on Will's cheeks, making them so moist. Shouldn't we find a chance to eat, Betty? Will hasn't lost his mind. Will pushed Betty away and took a handy two-handed knight's sword from the weapon rack. The teenagers preparing for the nights on the training ground stopped their training and looked at Will with complicated eyes, but none of them dared to come forward. Finally, Nicken walked over to Will. Master Will, do you need me to accompany you in training? Nicken asked cautiously with a reserved face. Although Nicken is Will's elder brother in name, Nicken does not regard himself as Will's elder brother. Even when he calls Will, he has to use honorifics. No need, I'm here to find Captain Neeson. Will said indifferently. Neeson is a close friend of Baron Leo who met in the army. Both of them have saved each other's life, and they have a friendship that has passed their lives. After retiring, Neeson followed Baron Leo back to the Albert family and became the captain of the Cavaliers in Albert Castle. Because Neeson was injured when he was a soldier, he lost his fertility and had no descendants. Therefore, Will is like his own son to Neeson. Will also treats Neeson with great kindness. Will, you're here. A huge 2-meter-tall man walked towards Will with strides, and a bear hugged Will tightly. Ha ha, ha ha ha, you haven't come these days, I feel like something is missing. Captain Neeson picked Will up, turned around a few times, and then put Will down. Will turned pale. Captain Neeson's strength is really too great. Not everyone can bear Captain Neeson's passionate embrace. Uncle Neeson, I want you to train with me. Seeing Neeson's unfinished expression, Will said immediately. Practical training? Then let's change places. Under the envious eyes of the 17 Cavaliers reserve team members, Will and Uncle Neeson walked towards another place. In Albert Castle, Will is the only one who can get the sole guidance of Uncle Neeson at any time. Others, only with excellent results in the monthly assessment, will have the opportunity to give one-on-one guidance to Uncle Neeson when he is free. After turning a corner, we arrived at a place with fewer people. Will, what do you want to practice? Uncle Neeson's grinning expression disappeared. I want you to guide me in my swordsmanship. After that, Will held the sword and took a stance. Hey, let me see if your strength has declined after so many days of practice. After speaking, Uncle Neeson raised his sword and slashed at Will without waiting for Will's reaction. Clang! Wow! Uncle Neeson didn't activate the power of life, but its power was still far greater than Will's. In terms of strength, Uncle Neeson is inferior to Baron Leo. But when it comes to sheer power, Uncle Neeson is far greater than Baron Leo. Bang bang bang! Uncle Leo mercilessly slashed at Will with one sword after another. In the hands of Uncle Neeson, the knight sword is like a huge windmill, constantly spinning wildly. Will's smaller body struggled to support under the storm-like attack. Clang! The knight sword in Will's hand was knocked away. Uncle Neeson slapped Will on the chest with the blade of the sword. Goo! Will's breathing was stagnant, and the whole person flew out immediately and landed heavily on the ground. It took a while before Will could breathe freely. Will's fingers lightly touched the red mark on his chest that Uncle Neeson had slapped with his sword, and he took a deep breath. Uncle Neeson, why do you strike so hard every time? Will complained. Who told you that your swordsmanship is so good? I don't focus on my strikes. If I get hit by you, won't I be laughed to death by that fellow Leo? Uncle Neeson didn't feel guilty at all. Will's current swordsmanship is level 3, a pure swordsmanship level, only Baron Leo can compare with Will. Ever since Will injured Uncle Neeson with his superb swordsmanship when he was 13 years old, and Uncle Neeson was ridiculed by Baron Leo for a few days, Neeson and Will never showed mercy in the competition. Except not to kill. Are you still here? Neeson laughed. Of course. Will clenched the knight's sword tightly, and rushed towards Uncle Neeson again with a fighting spirit. Once, twice, 3 times, rest, 4 times, 5 times, drink water, 6 times, 7 times. Will was knocked down again and again, and stood up again and again. Time passed slowly, and before I knew it, a day passed. Will was bruised and knelt down on the training ground exhausted physically and mentally. The partner Neeson also showed a tired look. Will, let's call it a day. Uncle Neeson wiped off his sweat. Training is also important. If you overdo it, it will only hurt your body. Then tomorrow I have something to do in the next few days, you can train yourself. After finishing speaking, Uncle Neeson left as if running away. Will looked at Uncle Neeson's back speechlessly. I'm really too anxious. This injury probably takes a few days to recover. Will dragged his exhausted body and walked towards Grandpa Barry. Grandpa Barry is Castle Albert and the only pharmacist in the entire town of Lent. Grandpa Barry has served the Albert family for decades. Grandpa Barry watched Baron Leo grow up, and watched Will grow up. His status is even higher than Uncle Neeson. The house where Grandpa Barry worked was in a small stone room outside the castle. Because people often come to Grandpa Barry to heal his injuries, there are knights injured in training, villagers injured in hunting, and children with fever and cold. There are always people coming in and out. It was impossible for Baron Leo to allow so many people to enter and leave the castle frequently, and Grandpa Barry was enthusiastic and wanted to treat people's illnesses. Therefore, Grandpa Barry built the studio outside the castle. Work outside the castle during the day and return to the castle to rest at night. Chapter 4. Dusk. The crimson sun sank slowly into the mountains. In the distance, there is little smoke from cooking, and the sound of dogs barking comes from afar. Will walked out of the castle, crossed the moat, and came to Grandpa Barry's small stone house. In the stone house, Grandpa Barry, with grey hair and wrinkled face, was packing all kinds of medicinal herb ores. From a distance, you can smell the pungent herbal smell. Master Will, are you here again? Grandpa Barry looked at Will and smiled. Will's dream is to travel the world and explore the world. In the process, injuries are inevitable, and being trapped in the deep mountains and jungles is also inevitable. At that time, if one does not have a little knowledge of herbal medicine, Will be greeted only by despair. So, since he was sensible, Will often went to play with Grandpa Barry. Ask Grandpa Barry to teach you about various herbal plants. During this process, Will got to know many strange animals and plants that he has never heard of and seen, which are not found on the earth. Are you training with Neeson again? Grandpa Barry noticed the bruises on Will's body. Neeson always doesn't know how badly he hits. What if you hurt you? I told you before, and the kind of bruises that Neeson has, it's no good training a big man who can only do brute force. Seeing that Grandpa Barry was going to be long-winded again, Will hurriedly said, Grandpa Barry, I'll go in and get some medicine. After speaking, Will got into the stone house and skillfully took out some herbs for treating bruises. When Will was holding the herbs and preparing to boil the medicine, he suddenly heard a mournful howl from outside the stone house. What's going on? Will felt bad and rushed out immediately. Beside the stone house, 2 swordsmen in leather armor carried a man covered in blood, and hurriedly asked Grandpa Barry for help. Master Barry, save Berg, he is about to die. The 2 hurriedly begged Grandpa Barry. Captain Berg? Seeing the man's face, Will's eyes tightened. Noticing Berg's miserable state, Grandpa Barry rushed over. Quickly bring it in. Grandpa Barry's face changed suddenly. Will, quickly take the knife and separate the breastplate, the hemostatic cloth, quickly. At this point, Grandpa Barry no longer cared about his status. But no matter how hard Grandpa Barry and Will tried, it was too late. There are 2 huge holes in Berg's chest, which cannot be cured with the level of medical skills in this world. Even the largest hospital on Earth, the most sophisticated instruments, and the best surgeon in the previous life, I'm afraid it's not enough. Captain Berg's body gradually became cold. Will's heart sank gradually. Captain Berg, the peak strength of a quasi-knight, Will has asked him many times for advice on swordsmanship. These days it is Captain Berg's turn to patrol around the castle. Unexpectedly, he died in front of Will. Will couldn't hide the anger in his heart. Who is it? Who killed Captain Berg? Will roared in a low voice, I must make them pay the price. Someone dared to kill the patrol members of the Albert family in the territory? This is treason. This is challenging the face of the Albert family. Under the intermittent explanations of the two patrol members, Will finally sorted out the context of the matter. Not long ago. Evening. On the way back to the castle on patrol, Captain Berg found a wild horned bull when he passed a small forest. Corned beef is delicious and expensive. Captain Berg immediately decided to hunt the horned bull. Captain Berg has the strength of the peak Quasi Knight, and there are two well-equipped patrol members on the side to assist him. Killing a horned bull should have been foolproof. Unexpectedly, at the last moment, the horned bull rushed out of the encirclement and rushed towards the depths of the woods. Once the horned bull rushes into the deep forest, all the hard work will be in vain. Excited, Captain Berg actually stood in front of the horned bull. It is very simple for a Quasi Knight to kill a horned bull. Like a matador killing a bull. But you let the matador block the bull's charge head-on? Captain Berg, blinded by a momentary desire, actually planned to block the horned bull with his physical body. The ending is what it is now. He was knocked into the air by a horned bull, and 2 holes were pierced in his chest by the horn, and he died. After learning what happened, Will was speechless for a while. Human life is too fragile. No matter how hard you work, no matter how strong you are, a momentary carelessness is enough to kill people. Will reached out and covered Captain Berg's unwilling eyes. Go at ease, I will take good care of your wife and children. Will picked up the medicine in a trance, and walked towards the castle staggeringly. What about Quasi Knights? What about knights? A single bump from a weak horned bull is enough to kill a person. So what if you are careful? If you are fighting all the time, there will inevitably be times of negligence. Human life is too much. Fragile. For the first time, Will deeply felt the fragility of life. It's not that Will hasn't seen dead people. But those were injured and died while besieging wild beasts and fighting robbers. This is the first time Will has encountered someone like Captain Berg who died accidentally when he had an overwhelming advantage. Will is naked, sprawled on the bed. The maid Tracy took the boiled plaster and rubbed it on the bruises on Will's body. In a daze, Will fell asleep. Early the next morning, Will came to the training ground again. You. Will pointed at the 3 of them in succession. You guys will practice with me. Today, Will's eyes are extraordinarily bright. 3 people surrounded Will, one holding a wooden knife. The 3 of them showed hesitant expressions on their faces, and kept passing their eyes to each other, not knowing what to do. This was the first time Will took the initiative to find them as a sparring partner. Don't show mercy, attack as much as you want. This? The 3 training partners still hesitated, not daring to make a move. Every time you hit me, you get 10 silver coins. Under the heavy reward, there must be a brave man. Then we're welcome. Facing the temptation of gold coins, the 3 of them finally mustered up their courage. Come again. Didn't you eat? Why didn't you stab the sword just now? Are you afraid I won't be able to stop it? That's it, you're welcome. Now when the 3 sparring partners get tired, they change, and when they get tired, they change. Will's swordsmanship is far superior to everyone here except Nikan. Originally, Will thought that he was facing a combined attack from 3 people, and unless he relaxed, the opponent would not be able to hit him. But Will obviously overestimated himself. In other words, in previous competitions, the others did not try their best. In one morning, Will was hit 97 times. After dividing the money that should be given. Continue in the afternoon. Will's physique is indeed outstanding among the reserve knights, and his level of swordsmanship is also very high, but Will's actual combat experience is really too little. In the heat of mobile combat, Will often be confused by some shallow feints. Theoretically, it is impossible for Will to fall into that kind of simple trap. In a fierce battle, no one can maintain absolute rationality, and the moves that are usually practiced hard are no longer practical, and they rely more on instinct and muscle response. Will summed up while resting. Actually, they were only hit 97 times because they didn't let go of their hands and feet. The training in the afternoon should be even more tragic. Every breath of Will's will affect the wound on his body. But Will not only did not back down, but became even more excited. This is fighting. Will clenched his hands. This feeling of constantly fighting and becoming stronger is really fascinating. I don't know what it feels like to break through life and death in the legend. Time is up. Will came to the training ground again. On the training ground, more than a dozen teenagers were already waiting there, surrounded by a group of watching people. In the past, in order to prevent people from interfering with his cultivation, Will usually drove away the onlookers, or went to a relatively remote place with few people. But this time is different. Will's mind changed. The real battlefield is ever-changing. When and what will happen is impossible to calculate with the poor and weak human brain. The only thing you can really trust is your own body that has been tempered, and your extraordinary instant response will be disturbed by crowds. That can only prove that your mentality is not strong enough. This afternoon, the training was even more intense. People jumped up and down. Later, not only the members of the juvenile group, but also members of the other guards joined in. Among these people, there are those with swift and fierce swords. A feint with a sword, and then a sneak attack with fast feet. There is a charming eye for kicking dust. Some throw swords. Various weapons, various techniques, and various styles are constantly displayed in front of Will. Will can clearly feel that his strength is growing crazily. His physique has not improved, his swordsmanship is still level 3, and his vitality has not been stimulated, but Will's combat effectiveness has actually become stronger. An afternoon later, Will was hit 131 more. If the attacker is not using a wooden sword. Of the 131 hits Will received, 17 were fatal and 35 were permanently disabled. Inside the castle, Baron Leo looked at the figure of Will, who was constantly fighting on the training ground through the window, showing a gratified smile. Neeson stood beside Baron Leo, also looking at Will with gentle eyes. Leo, the current will makes me see you back then. You are just as persistent, as resolute, and as strong. Within 20 years, you will be a badge knight again. Neeson sighed. There is also a huge gap in strength among knights. Because the Cairo Empire will award knights who have made great achievements with badges, and gradually, especially powerful knights will be called badge knights. No, you're wrong. Baron Leo smiled under Neeson's astonished gaze. Will surpass me, and he will lead the Albert family to a higher position. It seems that you have great confidence in Will. Neeson laughed. Of course. Baron Leo puffed out his chest proudly. He is my son. 5 days later. Crackling. After knocking down the 3 besieging him, he looked at the sun in the far west. 7 hits, I was hit 7 times this afternoon. Will was quite proud. Master Will, you are truly a genius. The people around him also praised Will without hesitation. Come here first today, you go to Tracy to get the money. Will ordered. Thank you, young master. Master, what time is tomorrow? Facing everyone's expectant eyes, Wire shook his head. Practice training is enough. Is that so? After understanding what Will meant, the trainees all showed disappointment. 5 gold coins are enough for an average family of 3 to live well off for a year. If you have a field at home and use it sparingly, you can spend less than 1 gold coin a year. And Will took out a total of 37 gold coins in the past 3 days. On average, each person got more than 1 gold coin, which is a small sum of money. Haha, thank you for your sparring for the past few days. Tonight, I will ask the chef to have an extra meal and eat horned beef. Will Lang said. As soon as Will's words fell, there were deafening cheers all around. Chapter 5. Bedroom. Will sat at the desk, holding a white quill, and a piece of gauze in front of him. Will leaned back in the chair, his flaxen hair couldn't cover Will's bright eyes. Baron Leo set off 2 days ago to settle the iron ore dispute on Dulu Island. This time the dispute seems to be quite intense. Even Uncle Neeson, who has been stationed in the castle, has been taken with him. He won't be able to return for 10 days and a half months. Wei, I was thinking secretly in my heart. This time is my best chance. Will's eyes became brighter. I can't live under the wing of Baron Leo forever, I also have my own life and my own dream. Will pulled 5 volumes of maps from a drawer. Pulling away the hemp rope that tied the map, Will placed 5 maps on the table one by one. The 5 maps are from left to right, and the range of markers is from large to small. The first map is the map of the Cairo Empire, which depicts the 7 provinces of the Cairo Empire and the general direction of the mountains and rivers of the entire Cairo Empire. The second map depicts the province of Doria where Will is now. The third map is the map of Moonfall City. Lent Town, where the Albert family is located, is within the jurisdiction of Moonfall City. Will's mother, Delia Kemple, is a member of the Campere family of Moonset City and the daughter of the current Moonset City Lord. The fourth picture is a map of the territory of the Albert family, including the town of Lent and the 3 Knight territories. The fifth picture is the surrounding map of the Red Moon Forest, where Will is about to go. The Red Moon Forest stretches for thousands of miles. From the southernmost to the northernmost part of the Cairo Empire, countless low hills are rolling and lush with green trees. I heard that on the opposite side of the Red Moon Forest is the Kuwaiti Empire. A nation made up of the archenemies of man, the orcs. The Kuwaiti Empire and the Cairo Empire have been fighting for thousands of years, and dozens of battles, large and small, break out every year, but the two sides have always had nothing to do with each other. The reason why neither side invaded the other through the Red Moon Forest. It is not because there are powerful beasts in the Red Moon Forest, nor is it because there are strange races living in the Red Moon Forest. It's because the Red Moon Forest is too wide, and there are too many mountains. The mountains in the Red Moon Forest are not high, not majestic, but they are many. The peaks are one after another, and the mountains are overlapping, full of poisonous insects, snakes, and ants. The large army can't go at all. Even if the small elite troops passed through, without logistics and supplies, they would just die in vain. The Red Moon Forest is not dangerous. After many years of exploration by people, there are detailed maps, and the haunted places of beasts have also been marked. I have also consulted with hunters in the past few days. As long as you are careful, there should be no problem with safety. Will's eyes kept turning on the map, his head was thinking quickly, and the quill in his hand wrote a few strokes on the gauze paper from time to time. Not long after, Will's itinerary had an outline. It's my first time going out on an adventure. I'm still alone. It's better not to go too deep. Will is not a combat lunatic, and he doesn't want to deliberately put himself in danger. It would be best if Baron Leo couldn't find out, so in terms of time, it's best to keep a round trip within 10 days. Considering all kinds of unexpected things, it is impossible to follow the plan, and there will probably be unexpected situations. Therefore, it is best to schedule a round trip within 6 days for the journey. After thinking about the time, Will began to plan the route. Depart from Albert Castle, climb over the red soil slope, pass outside Nihujiao village, advance along the curved water ditch, cross the tall wood peak, and the dry forest swamp, and finally arrive at Banyu Mountain. The route has been set. Next comes the specifics. For example, how much progress per day? Break time? What equipment do you bring? Making a good route is just the beginning. Time passed slowly. The sun is setting and the stars are twinkling. Tuck tuck tuck. The crisp knock on the door woke Will from his contemplation. Looking at the completely dark sky, Will asked in surprise, "It's already this late?" Kurr. Will's stomach rumbled just in time. "We're leaving tomorrow, so we need to rest well tonight." Will stood up and stretched his body. Will looked at the paper on the table with satisfaction, which was the crystallization of Will's afternoon this afternoon. After tidying things up and putting them in drawers. "Come in." Will originally thought it was Tracy who brought the dinner, but he didn't expect it to be. After Will made his voice, a young figure opened the door and rushed in. The visitor had long, smooth platinum hair, a snow-white complexion, round and tight legs, and was wearing a loose white one-piece dress. This person looked light and fluffy, and with the innocent smile on the corner of his mouth, he was extremely cute. "Master Will." Betty stood leaning against the door with her hands behind her back. It was not Tracy who came in, but Betty, which was enough to surprise Will. After Betty entered the door, she didn't rush towards him immediately, but stood with her cheeks flushed and shyly leaning against the door with her head down. Does the sun come out from the west? However, the current Betty also has a special flavor. Will sat on the armchair and looked at Betty amusedly, wanting to see what kind of idea Betty had. "Master Will, there are too many people in the public bathroom today, I want to borrow the bathroom from you." Betty asked Will shyly. The servants in Albert Castle bathed in the public baths. Only a very small number of people, such as Will, Baron Leo, and Neeson, have their own dedicated bathrooms. It was not the first time that Betty made such a request, so Will immediately agreed. But Betty did not leave immediately. Betty struggled at the door for a while before saying in a mosquito-like voice, "Master Will, you haven't taken a bath yet, have you? How about we wash together?" "What?" Will froze. Although he knew that Betty had always had unreasonable thoughts about him, and always tried to seduce him and force him to make mistakes. He has always been pleased with this. Moreover, he also had a good impression of Betty, and he was thinking of finding an opportunity to take her in. I just didn't expect it to be so bold. Hinting was no longer enough, straight to the face, walked into the room and said it. Master Will has been exercising so crazy these days, he must be very tired, right? Let me help you relax. Saying that, Betty puffed out her chest. Betty's tone returned to her usual look, with a hint of charm, but the weak trembling of her body still betrayed Betty's inner tension. Sure enough, it's still too tender. Will sighed in his heart. Will is no longer a baby, he has some experience with men and women. He could see the shyness in Betty's heart at a glance. Okay. Will smiled. Since they have delivered them to the door in person, he originally had this idea, why did he refuse? Girls, especially in this medieval world, want to do such a bold thing, I don't know how much they have endured, and how firm their determination is. Really? Betty asked in surprise. Seeing Will Xiao's hey expression, the smile on his face suddenly froze, and his cheeks became flushed. Betty's little head was steaming when she thought of how bold she was and what would happen next. Master, I'll wait for you in the bathroom. Betty trotted away after saying that. Will finally did not eat Betty. Will fled out of the bathroom in a panic. Not that Will was shy. But Will knew that once he couldn't bear it, it wouldn't be solved once or twice. Betty's temptation was too bold this time. If Will fucked up, fought till dawn, kept Betty out of bed the next day, and Will had a sore back for days, that was a given. But what about the adventurous plans made earlier? Will is a man of great self-control. When you come back, you must eat Betty. In order to vent his remaining energy, Will rushed down to the training ground again. An hour later, Will dragged his exhausted body and fell onto the bed covered in sweat. At dawn the next day, Will immediately opened his eyes. Will felt a surge of strength all over him. After washing up and having breakfast, Will left the castle on the pretext of wanting to walk around the castle. In order to prevent Tracy from worrying, Will has left a letter in the room. When Tracy cleaned the room, she would naturally find the letter left by Will. Will avoided the patrol and came to a sparse grove not far from the castle. Here is the outermost edge of the Red Moon Forest. It is the entrance to the Red Moon Forest. Will cautiously looked around, and after making sure that there was no one there, he dug out the things that had been buried in the past few days from under a pine tree. To take risks, tools are indispensable. It was impossible for Will to walk out of the castle gate swaggeringly with tools, otherwise he would definitely be stopped, even if he was the heir to the Baron. So Will can only take a little at a time, take the tools and items outside and hide them. Will opens the package. There is a black suit inside. In the Red Moon Forest, ordinary clothes are easily caught by branches, easily damaged, and will only act as a hindrance, so a set of special clothes is indispensable. Then there is a two-handed knight's sword, and 3 daggers of different sizes. In the Red Moon Forest, danger is everywhere. Will has practiced the night sword for 10 years. The night sword is Will's most convenient weapon, and Will has no reason not to carry it. And the dagger can cut wood, cut flesh, and fight in narrow places, with many uses. Next came a bow, and 20 arrows. Will is also very good at archery. Bows and arrows are very useful in dense forests. If you don't have some long-range attack means, you will easily get into trouble. Others include water bottles, dry food, maps, and various medicines. Antidote, hemostatic medicine, cold and fever medicine, etc. Will changed his clothes, put on his equipment, took his bow, set up his arrows, and walked cautiously towards the Red Moon Forest step by step. The sunlight fell on Will through the gaps in the leaves, forming scattered spots of light. Will was drenched in dew. After several hours of intense concentration, Will already felt a little tired. But Will dare not relax. It was the first time Will entered the deep mountains, and he was still alone, so he couldn't be too careful. Rustle. The branch on the left front suddenly swayed, and a little bit of dew fell. Will tensed, startled. Squat down. Draw the bow. Aim. All in one go. A squirrel burst out and jumped onto another branch. Squeak. The squirrel gnawed on a nut and looked at Will inexplicably. Call. Will took a breath, lifted his readiness status, and continued to walk forward. Chapter 6. In the depths of the Red Moon Forest, giant trees and shrubs are overlapping and intertwined, making it difficult for people to walk. In this lush forest, a figure that should not have appeared. A flaxen-haired, brown-eyed, handsome boy who looked only 14 or 15 years old, dressed in a black suit, lay motionless in the bushes, his eyes staring straight ahead. He holds a bow in his left hand and an arrow in his right hand. A swarm of ants climbed over the leaves and over the stones to Will. Neck, ankles, arms, hair. Will's body was covered with ants. But Will was unmoved. A green snake coiled down a nearby pine root and came to Will's side. Sissy. The green snake climbed onto Will's body with its tongue sticking out, coiling around Will's neck again and again. But Will's eyes were still fixed on the front. Clatter clatter. The branches in front shook violently, and the sound of da-da footsteps came from not far away, and the strange syllables moved from far to near. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Will counted silently. 5 green figures rushed out from the depths of the bushes. Wrinkled green skin, pointy ears, about 1.2 meters tall, with 2 canine teeth exposed, completely naked. Holding thick wooden sticks or stones in both hands, a hint of wisdom flashed through his cloudy eyes from time to time. Goblins. A short stature, with the IQ of a 4 or 5-year-old child, an omnivorous creature with rough skin and thick flesh. Usually live in the depths of the forest. It will reproduce in large numbers in spring, and will go out to attack passers-by in the farm due to insufficient food. Goblins' flesh is bitter and unpalatable, and their fur is perishable and stinky. It is a veritable pest. 10,000 times worse than cockroaches. Because goblins have thick skin and great strength, in one-on-one situations, ordinary adults may not necessarily win. Especially in dense forest. Once the goblin escapes into the forest, the green goblin seems to be integrated into the forest, and it is impossible to find it again. 20 meters, 18 meters, 15 meters. Will silently calculated the distance. When facing goblins in the forest, you must kill them with one blow, and don't give the goblins a chance to escape. This is already the 3rd wave of goblins that Will has encountered today. The first 2 times were due to carelessness, and some goblins escaped. 10 meters. In an instant, Will moved. Pull the string, aim, and shoot, and the iron arrow pierces a goblin's head. Before the other goblins could react, Will shot the second arrow. Another arrow headshot a goblin. The remaining 3 goblins noticed Will's hiding place. Whoosh whoosh. 3 fist-sized rocks were thrown from the goblin's hands and flew towards Will. Will ducked sideways to avoid the rock. Clang! Will pulled out the night sword and slashed straight. The nearest goblin was beheaded by Will. Will showed a fierce look on his face, not giving the other party a chance to escape. As soon as the 4th goblin turned to run away, Will caught up with him and slashed his sword on the goblin's back. The goblin screamed, curled up on the ground, bounced a few times, and then remained silent. The last goblin was the furthest away from Will. At this time he had escaped from Will by more than 20 meters. Will could only vaguely see the last goblin through the gaps in the bushes. Can you escape? Will pulled out the dagger from his waist and swung it hard. The dagger turned into a silver light and hit the back of the last goblin accurately. The last goblin staggered to the ground. Will came to the side of the goblin who was shot dead by the bow and arrow, and drew out the arrow. The head of this arrow is so twisted that it appears to be unusable. Will took 20 arrows with him when he entered the forest. Now 3 days have passed and there are only 9 left. Bows and arrows are consumables after all, so there is no other way. Withdrawing the bow, arrow, and dagger, Will picked up a green snake on the ground. The green snake just lay on Will's body and was strangled to death by Will. Will took out the dagger and slashed at the green snake's mouth, tearing it off with his hand, and Will cut off the green snake's skin. Remove head. Crack, click. The green snake was swallowed by Will in several mouthfuls. Will burped. After eating snacks, Will continued to walk deep into the Red Moon Forest. It was originally planned to arrive at the destination in 3 days, and there was a round trip in 6 days. I didn't expect it to be 3 days now, and I only walked half of the distance, and I didn't even reach the Deadwood Swamp. After all, this is Will's first time entering the depths of the Red Moon Forest, and he is still alone, so he will inevitably suffer from inexperience and encounter many accidents. Fortunately, there was no accident that threatened Will's life. It's just a waste of Will's time. These 3 days are not meaningless to Will. In the Red Moon Forest, danger may be encountered anytime and anywhere, and one cannot relax one's vigilance for a moment. 3 days of intense and exciting life made Will feel an unprecedented feeling. If I die here, no one will know. It doesn't matter if you are a title or the head of the family, once you die, it will be meaningless. Is it really meaningful to be in a dangerous situation? Isn't it good to enjoy life? Fear, doubt, and fear test Will's mind all the time. Will has a bright future, and beauty, money, and power are all waiting for Will. What's the benefit of breaking into the Red Moon Forest alone for a little vanity? Tired of life? Will felt that his cultivation had obviously loosened. After returning this trip, within a month, Will definitely be able to stimulate his vitality and become a quasi-knight. Turn back when you reach the Deadwood Swamp, there is little point in moving on. Suddenly, there was a loud and harsh sound ahead. Will stopped, holding his breath. Most of the noisy and messy voices belonged to goblins. The goblins' hideous shouts were mixed with faint human shouts. Is anyone here? Was Will's first thought. Is someone in danger? Was Will's second thought. I have to save them. Will acted immediately. Will held his breath and walked cautiously towards the direction of the sound. Approached. Not found by anyone. Will poked his head out from behind a pine tree. More than 30 goblins were besieging two men in leather armor and dressed as hunters. On the side, there was already a hunter sprawled out on the ground, motionless, probably dead. Will notices that there is also a dead porcupine. Will has grasped the context of things. 3 hunters hunted down a porcupine and went deep into the Red Moon Forest. After finally killing the porcupine, they were attacked by goblins. Will frowned. It's not a problem for me to hit 10 ordinary adults now, but there are 30 goblins here. It's not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2, rushing in rashly will only kill me. Get on. Will watched the battle carefully. Will's eyes lit up. Yes. Will notices a goblin that hasn't joined the fight. That goblin was stronger than ordinary goblins, with a larger body, with animal skins around its waist, holding a rusty iron rod in both hands, and making weird syllables from time to time. Commander Goblin? No matter what race it is, when a certain number gathers together, there will always be a ruler. Goblins are no exception. It is rumored that there was a goblin king who ruled thousands of goblins and was as powerful as a knight. But that's just a legend after all. As long as you kill the goblin commander, the goblins will definitely mess up. After confirming the target, Will secretly approached the goblin commander. During the period, the 2 hunters screamed again, being hit by goblins again. It's close, it's close, it's close, go to hell. Will suddenly jumped down from a tree, held up the night sword and slashed at the goblin commander from top to bottom. Kuka! The goblin commander screamed in terror. But he still couldn't dodge, and was slashed to the body by Will's sword, and the entire left shoulder was chopped off by Will. Want to escape? Will knocked 2 goblins who had surrounded him, trying to protect the goblin commander, into the air. There was a piercing sound coming from behind. It was a stone thrown by a goblin. The stone hit Will in the back, and Will staggered in pain. But Will doesn't care. Will quickly caught up with the goblin commander, and chopped the goblin commander with 3 swords. Seeing that the boss was killed, the remaining goblins fled in all directions with a buzzing sound, not intending to avenge the boss at all. The 2 hunters walked up to Will covered in blood and thanked Will. One of the skinny hunters saluted Will with a crappy knightly salute. Master Will Albert, thank you for saving your life. You know me? Will was a little surprised. Another bearded hunter explained to Will, we both live under the Leo barony, and we go to Albert Castle to pay taxes every year. I have seen you a few times, and you probably don't remember us. Will is a little embarrassed. Let's leave here first. The smell of blood is too strong here, it is easy to attract beasts, and it is too dangerous. The thin man said. The thin man carried his dead hunter companion on his back, with sadness in his eyes. Bait, 2 days ago we drank together and made a bet on who would die first. I won, but I couldn't be happier at all. The bearded man carries the porcupine on his back. There is a rest point near here, it is relatively safe, we can rest there first. After all, 2 hunters led the way ahead. This walk is 2 hours. It is not easy to find a safe place to rest in the Red Moon Forest. Will hasn't had a good night's sleep in the past 3 days. Led by 2 hunters, the 3 came to a hut in the woods. There is still a house in this place? Will asked in surprise. It was left by the previous hunters, and we just continued to use it. The skinny man explained. In the future, we will leave it to the next generation of hunters, and the next generation of hunters will leave it to the next generation. I think it will be the same for the previous generation of hunters, so it is unclear which hunter built this house and when. The man added. Next, clean the cabin, find firewood and set up traps. Everything was going on in an orderly manner. At night, the three of Will roasted porcupine pork around the campfire. The fragrant porcupine pork stimulated Will's nose, and before the porcupine pork cooled down, Will couldn't wait to eat it. Tasty. Due to the lack of seasoning, the taste of roast porcupine pork is not very good. But Will ate dry food and raw food for 3 days, and now he gave Will a cornbread, and Will would exclaim. It's delicious. Not to mention the roast porcupine pork which tastes okay. Chapter 7. The fourth night of the Red Moon Forest. The night sky is full of stars. Cloudless. 3 crescent moons hang high in the sky, and the night is like day. If it weren't for the occasional howling of beasts from a distance, this would definitely be a great place to watch the night sky. Will, the thin man, and the bearded man gathered around the bonfire. There was a crackling sound in the campfire, and sparks popped out of the campfire from time to time. On the bonfire, a few sticks with porcupine pork were driven. The porcupine pork is roasted under the bright yellow flame, dripping with sesame oil, exuding a fragrant and seductive smell. Speaking of which, Master Will, you don't know our names yet. My name is Baokai, and this is Gemma. The skinny man Baokai paused, the one lying over there is called Bet. When Bait was mentioned, Baokai, a skinny man, suddenly became gloomy. The bearded man explained, Baochi and Bet are very good friends. The two of them learned hunting skills from Lao Sai when they were young. When they were attacked by goblins, if it wasn't for protecting Baochi, Bet wouldn't have died at all. It's all my fault, I'm the one who killed Bet. The skinny man went crazy. Will didn't know what to say. When Will's mother, Delia, died 5 years ago, Will was also heartbroken. At that time, the whole world seemed to lose its color. Will even contemplated suicide. Not everyone will easily accept coming to a strange world. Will in his previous life was not an orphan, nor a cynical madman. Will has parents, brothers and sisters, friends, confidants and girlfriends, and a job with a not-so-good future, but decent. Will and his girlfriend were just considering getting married, and they argued all night about their children's names. Everything is so ordinary, so beautiful. However, Will lost everything. Will died, Will came into this world, Will had a second life. But Will's heart died. It was Delia who warmed Will's heart. It was Delia who made Will agree with this world. It was Delia who gave Will something to protect in this world. At the moment Delia died, Will was almost insane. Therefore, Will can understand Baokai's feelings at this moment very well. Will wanted to comfort Baokai, but felt bitter. Will thought of Delia, and his mood became gloomy. Don't be sad, at the moment we decided to become hunters, we all had this awareness. The bearded man comforted by patting the back of the thin man. As he spoke, the bearded man took out a jug of wine out of nowhere. Give. The skinny man Baokai took the jug, and took a few sips of it. Kilu. Ha ha, cool. The thin man laughed loudly, as if he wanted to laugh away all the sadness. The bearded man took the jug, took a few sips, and handed it to Will. Will took the flagon, hesitant. Looking at the black and yellow teeth of Baokai and Gemma, looking at the stained jug and the spittle stars inside. Will isn't a clean freak, but he just can't stop talking. Will handed the flagon back. I don't know how to drink, I'll be in trouble if I get drunk in the forest, I'll invite you all to have a good drink at the hotel when I get back. With us here, what are you worried about? We are partners, and we will protect you. You don't need to drink too much, just take a sip. Don't you think of us as friends? Baokai and Gemma kept persuading Will, which made Will feel embarrassed to stop drinking. Then I have a drink? Baokai and Gemma watched Will nervously. The flagon's account was almost up to the mouth, but Will put it down again. Baokai and Gemma couldn't hide their disappointment. If I drink it all up, don't blame me. After finishing speaking, Will sucked the spout of the pot in his mouth, and poured gurgling, and Will's Adam's apple kept wriggling. Cough cough cough. Suddenly, Will coughed violently. The wine dripped from the corner of Will's mouth, wetting his collar. Cough cough cough. Coughing, Will handed the flagon back to Gemma, the bearded man. Ha ha ha, you really don't know much about drinking. Baokai and Gemma laughed at Will's embarrassed look. Drink slowly, I'll just eat meat. Will put on a look that he would never touch alcohol again, which made the two of them laugh again. Next, Will chomps down on roast porcupine pork. After the farce just now, Baochi and Gemma stopped drinking. They sat aside and ate the barbecue, looking at Will from time to time, with their heads down, unable to see their eyes. The scene suddenly quieted down. There was only the crackling of the fire. I don't know when, even the chewing sound is gone. Will's face was flushed, and Will shook his head, his vision seemed a little blurry. I seem to be drunk. Will stood up staggeringly, I'll sleep first, and I'm on duty tonight to trouble you. Baokai and Gemma sat there, staring at Will motionlessly, without saying a word. The scene was eerily quiet. Will didn't seem to notice. Will walked towards the cabin, his feet faltering. After only 2 steps, Will's body softened, and Will supported the tree trunk beside him, but he still couldn't stand. Will leaned his back against the tree trunk, and his body slowly slid down. Baokai and Gemma stood up, standing in front of Will, squinting their eyes, with a weird smile on their lips, looking eerie. Will lowered his head, I can't walk anymore, please help me. Help you? Okay. The skinny man kicked Will down. Only then did Will seem to react. Will's drunkenness seemed to be getting better, but his body was still so soft that it was extremely difficult to even raise his head. Baokai, what are you doing? Will asked. Haha, you idiot, why are you still asking us at this moment? Gemma smiled cruelly, boy, now, you still want to put on airs of your young master in front of us? As he spoke, Gemma kicked Will hard a few times. Will finally understood what Baokai and Gemma were going to do. What are you doing? Aren't we friends? I just saved your life, are you treating your benefactor like this? Will was angry. Angry? Baokai had no guilt, why are you superior? Why can you get money and beauties without working hard? If I were the son of the Baron, I would definitely do better than a piece of trash like you. Do you think we are willing to become hunters? The hunters we know are only disabled and dead. If it is not for supporting our family and paying taxes, we... Gemma's eyes were burning with anger. Bait was killed by a guy like you. Baokai's face was ferocious, Master Will, how does the anesthetic taste that can poison a porcupine? Don't worry, we won't let you die so soon. I am the heir of the Albert family. If you let me go now, I can still forgive you. Die here, who knows we did it? Baokai sneered. Bowie was right. If you die in the Red Moon Forest, you won't even leave your body behind. Will disappear from this world as if he has evaporated from the world. As long as they don't expose themselves, no one in this world will know that the two of them killed Will. In order to prevent you from resisting, let me cut off your limbs first. Gemma walked towards Will with a short knife. Will had cut porcupine pork with this short knife a few minutes earlier. I saved you, why are you doing this to me? Can you make me die more clearly? Will seemed to have accepted his fate. Baokai and Gemma glanced at each other, and both showed mocking smiles at the same time. Why? Because you are Will Albert, Baron Leo's favorite son, the heir of the Albert family, isn't that enough? Baochi looked at Will like a stupid pig. Thinking that I could actually kill a nobleman, an heir to a baron. Gemma patted Will on the cheek with the back of his knife, Master Will, the night is still long, he he he. Neither of them noticed Will's cold, confident eyes. That's it. A silver light flew out from under Will and pierced Gemma's neck. Blood gushed out from Gemma's neck. Gemma covered his neck with his hands, but blood continued to flow from his fingers. Gemma stared at Will in disbelief. Gemma wanted to speak, but couldn't. Looking at Will who stood up indifferently, Baokai jumped up, how can you be fine? That's an anesthetic that can charm even a porcupine. Will walked towards Gemma with cold eyes. I heard that the nobles will practice a method called night breathing. After practicing it, they can run faster than a cheetah, stronger than a bull, and stronger than a porcupine. Have you practiced night breathing? Baochi exclaimed. Baokai is just an ordinary hunter in a remote village. For Baokai, he has never been exposed to night breathing. For Baokai, night breathing is as far away as magic in fairy tales. Thump. Bowie knelt down. Master Knight, Master Will, Baron Will, please forgive me, I don't dare anymore, please forgive me. Baokai kept kowtowing for mercy, his forehead was scratched. Will paused, if you really repent, I'm not. Baokai looked happy and kowtowed harder. Just halfway through speaking, Will suddenly accelerated. Will rushed to Baokai with a stride, and punched Baokai on the head. Baokai's head was sunken like a block of tofu. Baokai was paralyzed and died immediately. At the same time, Gemma, whose throat was pierced by Will with a dagger, also died due to excessive blood loss. Will stared wistfully at the night sky. A man was rescued in the forest, and the three of them walked together and talked happily. Then he was betrayed. Not because of money interests, not because of beauty rights, but because Will is an aristocrat and heir to the Albert family. Jealousy is so ugly. People's hearts are really unpredictable. Ding! Gain 7 points of source power. Ding! Gain 8 points of source power. People's fate is always unpredictable. Chapter 8. In the Red Moon Forest. Will stood alone. In the wine that Baochi and Gemma passed to Will, an anesthetic was added, which was a powerful anesthetic that could stun even a porcupine. Baokai guessed that Will had practiced the night breathing method, and his body was far stronger than that of a porcupine, so he was not stunned. Actually not. Baokai has exaggerated the role of night breathing too much. It also overestimated the strength of the knights. Although the knight can easily kill a porcupine, but when it comes to real physical fitness, the knight is not as good as the porcupine. Cavaliers can easily kill porcupines, just relying on the force technique that stimulates vitality. If a knight drank those wines, 9 times out of 10, his combat effectiveness would be greatly damaged. That's the case for the knights, let alone Will, a little reserve knight. Will hadn't had a drink in the first place. As the old saying goes, one must not have the heart to harm others, but one must not have the heart to guard against others. From kindergarten to university, teachers and parents constantly emphasize that strangers should not be trusted. In society, do you think it will be much better? No. There are countless liars in the society, and there are more tricks to deceive, and they fall for the truth if they are not careful. Will believe 2 people who haven't known each other for a long time, 2 people who don't know the bottom line? Joke. It's just that Will still underestimated the lower limit of human beings. Even the meat you grilled yourself. Handed wine? Leaving aside the issue of safety traps, even if Will has no cleanliness, he still can't drink it. What Baokai and Gemma saw was just an illusion put on by Will. Drink wine? Non-existent. This is something Will has learned in blood. I think when Will first entered the society, the wine table was indispensable. As a newcomer, Will must toast. Will has a colleague who often asks Will to toast, often saying I blow it, you can do whatever you want, and then picks up a bottle of liquor and pours it down. Everyone has blown the bottle, so it's impossible not to drink it, right? It's not good to drink less, right? Will is thin-skinned, so he drinks a full glass every time. Get drunk every time. At first, Will just thought that the other party was a good drinker, so he didn't think much about it. Until one time, Will saw with his own eyes that the other party was holding an empty wine bottle, gurgling for a long time, and toasting with a dozen people. At that moment, Will almost cried. Too young and too naive. Will didn't drink the wine given by Baochi, Gemma, and the others. It wasn't pure distrust, and he didn't expect the 2 to betray him. In fact, Will didn't know that the wine was drugged. It just felt that after he drank, the atmosphere suddenly became strange. I was suspicious, so I tried to pretend to be drunk. I just didn't expect. People's hearts, can they really not stand the test? What was even more unexpected was original power. My damn blue spirit system is actually working? Lan Ling came to this world with Will. A system that's been with Will for 15 years. A system that has barely functioned. Today, everything is different. Lan Ling, the opportunity to shine has come. Original power is actually obtained by murder? Will was a little surprised and a little scared. Original power, source power, is it the power formed by absorbing the soul of the dead? And one is 7 points, the other is 8 points, what is the principle? Strength? Vitality? Soul strength? Lan Ling's mechanism will be studied slowly later, and now I will add some to try. Blue Spirit. Will excitedly turned on the Blue Spirit system. Basic Swordsmanship, Level 3. Basic Archery, Level 2. Knight's Breath, Level 1. Origin Power, 15. If you want to upgrade, you must choose Night Breathing first. Whether it's swordsmanship or archery, strength is the root of strength. It's just that the Knight's breathing method must consume more energy than the sword and bow technique, right? I just killed 2 people, and I only have 15 points of source power. I don't know if it's enough. As he spoke, Will tapped lightly on the plus sign behind the night breathing method with his consciousness. Upgrade Night's Breath, yes/no. Without hesitation, Will clicked yes. Then, Will nervously stared at Lan Ling's screen. Clenched hands. I even forgot to breathe. Ding, the upgrade was successful. At this time, the night breathing method on the Lan Ling interface has been upgraded from level 1 to level 2. Will felt a flame burning deep in his body, the flame was getting bigger and stronger, and the flame was constantly burning Will's body. Will felt as if his body was in a fire. Will couldn't help but growl. A white light flashed across Will, invigorating life. Will stared blankly at his hands. Is this a breakthrough? Am I a quasi-knight? What surprised Will even more was that it only consumed 2 points of source power. OMG! Excited, Will clicked the plus sign next to the night breathing method again. Can I become a real knight today? Ding! Consume 4 points of source power, the upgrade is successful. The night breathing method on the Blue Spirit interface has changed from level 2 to level 3. Only. Shouldn't it? I have become a knight, and I feel that my control over my vitality is much stronger, but my body? Will now masters the knight level vitality inducing technique, but Will's physical fitness has not changed in any way. The reason why knights are strong is to control their vitality, but a strong body is the root. Strong physical fitness represents strong vitality. Only with a strong physical fitness can more vitality be erupted and a stronger combat effectiveness be achieved. That's not bad, no. Will was stunned. Cuckoo. It was the sound of the belly. I just ate enough, why am I hungry again? Will felt his body, and immediately laughed. It turns out that this is the case. Skills can be learned in an instant, but the body cannot become stronger in an instant. This is a very simple truth. What is the biggest physical difference between a strong person and a weak person? It's muscle. It's the skeleton. It's blood vessels. Even Lan Ling couldn't increase Will's muscles, strengthen Will's bones, or enlarge Will's blood vessels out of nothing. To become strong, you need energy. Where does energy come from? Food. Lan Ling is subtly strengthening Will's body. This time may be very long or short, but it is definitely much faster than practicing by yourself. And I only used 4 points of Yuan Li? Maybe I can go up another level? From level 1 to level 2, consume 2 points of source power. From level 2 to level 3, consume 4 points of source power. Does level 3 to level 4 consume 8 points of source power? Practice is the best way to test the truth. Will clicked on the Knight's Breathing method again, and the level of the Knight's Breathing method in the Blue Spirit interface jumped from level 3 to level 4, and there was only 15 points of source power left. In Will's mind, a flash of inspiration flashed. It was about the usage of vitality, the method of mobilizing muscles, and Will felt that his body was strengthening faster and hungrier. Will hurried to the roast porcupine pork. It wasn't until after eating half of the porcupine that Will stroked his round belly and showed a satisfied smile. After eating and drinking, Will looked at the 3 dead hunters and sighed. You are not benevolent, I cannot be unrighteous. The 2 hunters used their lives to help Will activate the Blue Spirit, and the merits and demerits were equal. Bury them. It just so happened that there was a shovel in the cabin. Will moved the 3 of them together and was about to dig a hole. Crack! An abrupt voice sounded from directly above Will. A branch as thick as an arm fell from the tree. The leaves on the branches are still very green, and there is still wood pulp in the fracture, which is definitely not naturally withered and broken. A sense of foreboding enveloped Will. Will didn't dare look up. Will has a feeling that once he looks up, he's dead. Will looked down. A shadow cast down from above. The shadow has slender limbs and looks very similar to a human shadow. The only difference is that there is an extra pair of arms around the waist. There was the sound of breaking wind in the sky. The shadows on the ground became more and more solid. Will knew that the owner of the shadow was approaching. The moment he felt the wind pressure, Will rolled on the spot, picked up the sword, and stimulated his vitality. Ha! Will gave a low snort, and the strongest room burst out. Buzz! Will's sword cut on one of the monster's arms, drawing a shallow bloodstain. How can it be? Will was surprised by the strength of the monster's defense on the one hand, and surprised by the monster's appearance on the other. The monster was a 2-meter-tall black ape, but compared to ordinary apes, it had 2 extra arms around its waist. At the moment Will was stunned, a huge force came from the sword. Will flew up from where he was, and hit the tree trunk midway. The body slid down the tree trunk. The scarlet eyes of the monster glared at Will violently. Will was a little lucky. If he had looked up just now, he would have been distracted the moment he saw the monster. In the face of this monster, distraction is equal to death. At the same time, Will also regretted it. Fuck. Why did I attack it? Will knew this monster, and this monster was called the four-armed ghost ape. Belongs to monsters. The four-armed ghost ape has great strength, no less than a great knight. According to the records of the four-armed ghost ape in the book, the four-armed ghost ape loves the shadows and fears light. It lives in dark caves during the day and comes out to hunt at night. Powerful, elusive, and devouring human brains. Most importantly, the four-armed ghost ape extremely vengeful. Escape. The moment the four-armed ghost ape looked at him, Will immediately acted. The power of the four-armed ghost ape is beyond imagination. Will's all-out blow that inspired his vitality could only cut through the skin. With Will's current strength, fighting the four-armed ghost ape can only lead to death. The four-armed ghost ape is very afraid of light. As long as it escapes into the daytime, it will be fine. Will glanced at the position of the three-wheeled moon in the night sky, and a trace of despair flashed in his eyes. The current time is only past 8 o'clock in the evening, and there are still 10 hours before the sun rises. Can you run away? The body is faster than the mind. While his head was still thinking, Will's body was already moving. Will rushed straight into the depths of the dense forest. The four-armed ghost ape moved and chased for dozens of meters, but stopped. The four-armed ghost ape looked at the direction where Will was escaping, then at the bodies of the three Baokis, and finally walked towards the three Baokis. Didn't you come after me? Although the four-armed ghost ape didn't come after him, Will didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. With the extent of the rumored four-armed ghost ape's grudge, he would never let him go. Damn it, I was careless. The smell of blood will attract beasts. After killing Baokai and Gemma, Will should leave the place quickly. Of course, this can't be blamed on Will. Who would have thought that a bonfire would be useless? Will the traps set up be invalid? What the smell of blood attracted was not an ordinary beast, but a monster. Whoa! With the angry roar from far to near, Will's face changed suddenly. The four-armed ghost ape finally caught up. Chapter 9. It was close to morning. The night is slowly receding, and the east is already pale. On the edge of the Red Moon Forest, in the sparse woods a few kilometers away from Albert Castle, a group of people dressed as robbers were stationed there. It's just that this group of people is strictly disciplined, wearing bright armor under dirty and tattered leather armor. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell that these robbers are pretending. Beside the fire, two people with obviously higher status were sitting there chatting, while four strong men were waiting by the side. One of the two men is younger, handsome, and looks to be in his mid-20s. The other was much older, with a strong body, dark skin, and thick calluses on his hands. Uncle Becky, isn't it good for us to do this? The young man frowned. This middle-aged man is obviously the rival of the Albert family, the knight Becky Evelyn of the Evelyn family. Charlie, your thinking is too naive. The middle-aged man looked at the young man disappointedly. Those chivalry is just a trick to deceive children. This world is much crueler than you imagined. The young man Charlie frowned, obviously not agreeing with Becky's statement. That's just the idea of the weak escaping from themselves. Our current strength is still higher than that of the Albert family. We just need to defeat them openly. Charlie still wanted to stick to his knightly way. Becky sighed, that's why the patriarch asked me to bring you here this time. Where did I say something wrong? Charlie wondered. In terms of overall strength, we are indeed in the upper hand now. If we continue to fight, we can suppress the Albert family, and maybe we can take away their territory, but... Becky paused, what about 10 years later? 20 years from now? Charlie frowned, we have more territories, so the resources will naturally be more abundant, and the probability of cultivating talents will be greater. The gap between us and the Albert family will only grow wider, won't it? Charlie, you are the first genius of our family generation and the future heir. Becky didn't answer Charlie's question directly, so, at what age did you become a quasi-knight? 17. Charlie didn't know why Becky asked knowingly. I only became a quasi-knight when I was 19 years old. You are much better than me. As long as you have 20 years, your achievements will not be inferior to Baron Leo, but Becky was a little conflicted in his heart, knowing whether to continue or not. However, Baron Leo has 2 sons, born to a mistress, named Nikan, who successfully stimulated his vitality a year ago and became a quasi-knight. Becky hit Charlie. So what? I don't think I will lose to that guy named Nikan. Charlie objected. But he's only 16 this year. Charlie was shocked for a moment, but his face recovered quickly. It's just 1 year younger than me, which doesn't mean anything. Charlie was still very confident. Charlie has been gifted since he was a child, taught by a famous teacher, coupled with his own hard work, his body reached the peak of a preparatory knight at the age of 15. Becoming a quasi-knight only needs a little chance. Charlie waited 2 years for this opportunity. If luck is a little bit better, and he becomes a quasi-knight at the age of 15, Charlie also has a chance. Moreover, the age of becoming a quasi-knight is just a manifestation of talent, and it does not mean how high or how strong one will definitely go in the future. Yes, we all believe that Nikan will definitely not be your opponent. Everyone in the Evelyn family is optimistic about Charlie, but there is still one member in the Albert family. Who? The 3rd son of Baron Leo, Will Albert, is 1 year younger than Nikan. At the age of 13, he had already reached the peak of the preparatory knight, and his sword skills were already on par with Baron Leo. Until Nikan became a quasi-knight, Will kept fighting against Nikan. It has been rumored until now that if Nikan does not use life force in battle, he is not Will's opponent. Becky sighed from the heart. This is impossible. Until this moment, Charlie's complexion finally changed. I have been taught by 3 knights in turn since I was a child. Since I was 5 years old, I have practiced for more than 16 hours a day, but I was only 15 years old when I reached the peak of the preparatory knight. Moreover, the strength of the quasi-knight is not just as simple as vitality. The physical fitness of the quasi-knight is also far stronger than that of the reserve knight. Even if the quasi-knight does not stimulate the vitality in the battle, the reserve knight cannot be the opponent. As for sword skills comparable to Baron Leo? Nonsense. Charlie didn't believe in such things at all. Charlie has always felt that his talent belongs to the most talented one. In terms of talent, among the people I know, Baron Leo is the only one who can stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Even knowing the existence of Nikan, Charlie didn't feel that Nikan could threaten him. But now, if Will is really as powerful as the rumors say, wouldn't the talent far surpass him? Maybe Will be able to touch the realm of the Great Knight in the future? Impossible. Becky saw the confusion and entanglement in Charlie's heart. Therefore, just now Becky hesitated to tell Charlie the truth. Remember, a genius who hasn't grown up is not a genius. Becky patted Charlie on the shoulder and said with a sinister smile. How sure are you? Charlie's eyes changed. Charlie is much more powerful than Becky imagined. Becky watched Charlie's changes with satisfaction, and said with a smile, according to the news we received, Baron Leo took Nisan to Dalo Island. A few days ago, the team leader Berg, who was the peak quasi-knight, also passed away for some reason. Now in Albert Castle, there is no one who can be called a strong person. There are 30 of us, 1 knight for me, 4 quasi-knights including you, and 25 reserve knights, equivalent to 1/3 of the strength of the family. It is enough to make a fuss in Albert Castle. Aren't you going to knock down the castle? Although the defense of Albert Castle is unprecedentedly weak, it is still quite strong. Even if we capture Albert Castle at a huge price, we will not be able to defend it. Therefore, the goal of our trip. Becky slashed with the knife in his right hand, weaken Baron Leo's strength, kill Will and Nikan. Is there really no problem for us to directly attack a baron's castle and kill the heir to the title? Charlie asked. It's normal for barons to attack and annex each other, and it's not a hereditary baron conferred by the king himself. Becky said indifferently. There are 2 types of titles. One is canonized by nobles, and the other is canonized by the king. A courtier's courtier is not a king's courtier. The titles conferred by the nobles are directly responsible for the nobles, not the king. The title of Baron Leo was bestowed by the Camper family in Moonset City. As long as you are not afraid of revenge from the Camper family, you can deal with Baron Leo any way you want. 2. Charlie adapted quickly. Charlie has always been like this, once a decision is made, he will not hesitate to implement it. A moment ago, Charlie felt that this action was not honest enough and violated his chivalry. Now, Charlie is the one who most wants to kill Will. Uncle Becky, tell me the details of this operation again. Some time ago, Charlie was reluctant to participate in the action meeting due to his resistance to this action, so he was very vague about the action plan and action details. Haha, good. Seeing Charlie grow up, Becky was very relieved. Did it happen over there? Why so noisy? Go and see what happened? There can be no accidents in this operation. After receiving Becky's order, the 4 guards standing around Charlie and Becky immediately walked towards the commotion. The sky is already bright. Dawn is coming. In Will's heart, there is only despair. The arrows are used up, the bow is broken, the daggers are all thrown away, the medicine is gone, and even the knight's sword is full of cracks. On Will's back, there are 4 claw marks with deep bone. The bleeding from the wound has stopped, but the wound is black and festering, obviously infected, but Will has no time to deal with it. Will's left hand was twisted and fractured, and he was unconscious. Will was running fast through the trees. The night-long fast battle and raid made Will's physical strength reach its limit. But Will can't stop. To stop is to die. Damn! 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 The sound behind him didn't move away, it was still approaching. I don't want to die. Will was anxious. I just learned how to use the blue spirit system. I still have a bright future. My future is bright. How can I die here? However, the reality is cruel. The shadow of death enveloped Will. In front of Will's escape, several figures appeared faintly. Run! Get out of the way! Get out of the way! At first, Will wanted to remind those people to run away. But those people watched Will approaching vigilantly, and even drew their weapons to threaten Will. Die! At the juncture of life and death, Will made a move. Will's sword turned into 3 rays of light and attacked the 3 people in front respectively. On Will's right hand, a white light flashed. With superb swordsmanship and the use of vitality, Will repelled 3 people at once. Will staggered, using vitality is too exhausting. With my current physical condition, I will definitely collapse again. After repelling the 3 people, people surrounded them again. Will fights and moves forward. Will grew more and more angry. At this time, a young man who seemed to be the leader of the team came to Will. Those who besieged Will stepped back to block Will's escape route. I'm Charlie, you. Go to hell. There is no time to lose. Will rushed at Charlie like a madman, looking like he was going to die with Charlie. What? Charlie's expression changed. Charlie didn't want to die with such a beggar-like lunatic. Charlie dodges sideways, while the sword in his hand blocks Will's escape route. Charlie's move was extremely subtle, not only dodged the opponent's move that wanted to die together, but also blocked the opponent's escape route. Unexpectedly, Will's body became short, and the sword light flashed across Charlie's left leg. Whoa! Charlie screamed and lost his balance. Will took the opportunity to pass Charlie and rushed out of the Red Moon Forest. Where to escape? A sword light chased after Will. Becky Evelyn made a shot. Chapter 10. Facing the powerful sword from the knight Becky, Will didn't even dodge. Will chose to carry the knight sword on his back. Clang! Becky slashed at Will's back, colliding with Will's sword. The huge force caused Will to fall forward and roll over. After rolling more than 10 meters, Will struggled to get up. Will's eyes were darkened, and the vision in his eyes was blurred. Will's speed at this time is almost the same as the running speed of an ordinary adult. Becky looked at Will's back with weird eyes. Facing his attack with knight-level strength, he didn't choose to dodge, but resisted. After being knocked down and standing up, the first thing to do is not to be alert to the enemy in front of you, but to run away with your back to the enemy. Is this man crazy? Becky walked up to Will, trying to fix the knife. Wow! Monster! Help! Help! Ah! Suddenly, the screams of his subordinates came from behind. What's going on? Becky had just turned her head when she noticed that Charlie was looking at him in horror. Uncle Becky, be careful! Careful! Before Becky finished speaking, a black shadow descended from the sky and rushed towards Becky. Tired of life? Becky swung his sword upwards with a backhand. Boom! Becky felt cut on a steel plate, and the force of the shock made Becky's jaw ache. Shadows fell on Becky. 2 thick, hairy arms wrapped tightly around Becky's waist, and the other pair of arms hugged Becky's head tightly. The 4-armed ghost ape hugged Becky's head and smashed it hard. There is a raised stone in the middle. Pop! Becky's head shattered like a watermelon, and the white brains scattered all over the floor. The four-armed ghost ape put his head on Becky's broken head. Blah blah. The four-armed ghost ape was sucking intoxicatedly. People around looked at the four-armed ghost ape in horror. Run, run away. Monster. Kill him. Revenge for Lord Becky. The screams and shouts were mixed together, and this place turned into a hell on earth. Will heard voices behind him. Will could imagine the horror behind him. But Will's footsteps did not stop. Will's eyes darkened, his steps faltered, and his speed of escape became slower and slower. At first, the running speed was about the same as that of an ordinary adult. Gradually, it became the walking speed of ordinary people. Whether it is mental or physical, Will has reached the limit. Whoa! The four-armed ghost ape caught up. The roar of the four-armed ghost ape was so exciting. Will stepped out of the forest and fell to the ground. Will lay on the ground and continued to crawl, everything was just for survival. In the east, the sun shyly revealed a corner. The warm sunshine fell on Will's body, but Will's heart was still cold. The roar of the four-armed ghost ape became even louder. The roar of the four-armed ghost ape became more and more angry. Will thought he would be torn to pieces by the four-armed ghost ape in the next instant. But after waiting and waiting, the roar of the four-armed ghost ape was still so far away. Will looked back. It was found that the four-armed ghost ape was hiding under the shade of a tree at the outermost edge of the Red Moon Forest, and roared at Will angrily, but did not dare to take a step. The sun is the power of the sun. The mysterious power from the east saved Will's life. The four-armed ghost ape is afraid of light, which Will already knew. It's just that Will didn't expect that the four-armed ghost ape would be so afraid of light to such an extent that it was comparable to the legendary vampire. Temporarily regained a life. But Will didn't dare to relax. Now there are no clouds in the sky to block the sun, and the four-armed ghost ape dare not come out. If a cloud suddenly appeared and blocked the sun, the consequences would be unimaginable. Will really hates this kind of thing that puts his life on luck, but there is nothing he can do about it. Will rested on his stomach for a few minutes. After accumulating a little strength, I stood up with difficulty and walked towards the distance. Will walked slowly, but his steps were extremely firm. Until... Master Will? It's Master Will. Master. Will was spotted by a patrol at Castle Albert. Will relaxed and passed out. There were bursts of severe pain in the body. Feeling weak and dizzy, this is Will's first impression after waking up. Will opened his eyes with difficulty. What came into view was a beautiful face with pear blossoms and rain. Master, you've finally woken up. You woke up, I thought it was, the maid Tracy cried with joy. The maid Tracy had dark circles under her eyes and her face was pale. She took care of Will, who was unconscious for several days without sleep, which made Tracy extremely exhausted. Fortunately, the hard work finally paid off. Food. Young master, are you hungry? Bring you food immediately. After a while, Tracy came to Will with a bowl of fresh meat porridge. Trish fed Will the porridge spoon by spoon. Notice Will frowning. Is porridge not to your liking? Tracy asked worriedly. No. Will snatched the porridge from Tracy, and Gilloy drank it all at once. Returning the bowl to Tracy, who was stunned, Will urged, give me 10 more. Okay, okay. Trish hurried out of the room with an empty bowl. Will's body has been getting stronger all the time since the night's breathing method rose to level 4. To become stronger requires energy. Food is energy. Several days of coma made Will extremely hungry. Will's physical trauma has almost healed under Will's strong physique and the doctor's treatment. The reason Will is so weak now is that he is hungry. As long as you are full, you will naturally have strength. Survived. Will sighed. You won't be so lucky next time. A strong man in a black aristocratic outfit walked in with anger in his eyes. Father. Will lowered his head guiltily. Do you know what you did? Baron Leo raised his hand, but couldn't take it for a long time. Remember your identity, you are the heir of the Albert family, my son. Your life does not only belong to you. When he saw Will covered in blood, Baron Leo's breathing almost stopped. Baron Leo almost thought he was going to lose Will. I'm sorry, I won't do it next time. This time, Will really took it easy. Feeling the guilt and apology in Will's tone, Baron Leo's anger subsided a lot. Your eldest brother and second brother are no longer here, and I can't lose you anymore. Looking at Baron Leo's sad face, Wiltzer felt Baron Leo's deep love for him. Actually, I didn't gain anything this time. Will stretched out his left hand towards Baron Leo, and the white light flashed on his hand and disappeared. Baron Leo's eyes lit up. Baron Leo looked at Will in surprise. Have you become a quasi-knight? In the future, you will be my assistant by my side. It's time to leave some family matters to you. Knowing that Will became a quasi-knight, Baron Leo's tone softened. You are not in good health now, don't use the power of life indiscriminately, take a good rest, you are the future of our family. Knowing that Will became a quasi-knight, Baron Leo's anger has dissipated. It is impossible to gain power without paying a corresponding price. Leo himself, under the siege of 11 robbers, broke out his vitality at a critical moment and became a quasi-knight. Nikan was hit by a poisoned arrow and wandered between life and death for 3 days and 3 nights before his vitality was stimulated. Every quasi-knight is awakened at the critical moment of life and death. Leo understood this truth better than anyone else. Baron Leo already knew how to train Will. Just like how he treated his eldest and second sons, Baron Leo has many ways to stimulate Will's vitality. But Baron Leo was afraid. Looking at Will, who was excited about becoming a quasi-knight, Baron Leo felt that he was old. It's time to give Will the weight of the family. After Baron Leo left, Tracy came in with a large plate of porridge. Will didn't need a bowl either, he just picked up the spoon and drank gulp after spoonful. Will looked up at Tracy. Why do you look so sad? Shouldn't I be happy when I woke up? I don't know why. After Tracy went out and came back, she looked distracted. Of course I'm happy that the young master is awake, but... Tracy gritted her teeth, tears welling in her eyes. What happened? Will put down the spoon. Me, Aunt Misha is dead. Tracy shed tears of sadness. In Albert Castle, there are only 100 people resident. Excluding the soldiers and guards, there are only 20 or 30 servants, many of whom are temporary workers. Among the many servants, Aunt Misha has been doing this for quite a long time. Aunt Misha's mother was exiled to the town of Lent and entered Albert Castle as a maid. Aunt Misha married a servant in Albert Castle, took over her mother's position when she became an adult, and continued to serve the Albert family. Aunt Misha's children are also working for the Albert family. 3 generations of the family have been working for the Albert family. It can be said that Aunt Misha is one of the oldest and most trustworthy people in the castle. And Aunt Misha's daughter is still Tracy's good friend. No wonder Tracy is so sad. How can Aunt Misha die like this? Will asked. Early this morning, Aunt Misha got up very early. Before dawn, she went to the river to wash clothes by herself. When the people behind went. As she spoke, Tracy began to cry again. Damn the Evelyn family. What did the Evelyn family do? The friction between the Albert family and the Evelyn family is getting more and more intense, and it is possible to do such a thing. The Baron will definitely find out the slut of the Evelyn family. They actually took Aunt Misha, woo 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 woo. As she spoke, Tracy burst into tears again. Aunt Misha, as a woman, already knows how Will be treated by the enemy. Only Will thought of Aunt Misha's fat body. Those people really can hang themselves. Stop talking, I will avenge Aunt Misha. Will comforted Tracy. Tracy looked at Will trustingly. Evelyn's group of demons dared to tear Aunt Misha's body into pieces and smashed her head. They will definitely suffer retribution. What? Will had a bad premonition in his heart. When did the Evelyn family appear? 2 days ago. How many days have I been in a coma? 2 days. How many people died? There are 4 patrolling members, 2 hunters around, and Aunt Misha, a total of 7 people. Everyone dies like Aunt Misha? The people of the Evelyn family are simply demons. Will stared up at the grain of the ceiling, gritting his teeth. 4-armed ghost ape. Chapter 11. Will asked Trish to rest, and Will rejected Trish's suggestion to arrange for another maid to take care of him. Master Will. Betty walked in wearing a maid outfit, her platinum hair was tied into a high ponytail, and Betty looked extremely capable and energetic. Why are you here? Will asked. Tracy was worried that no one would take care of Master Will, and Master Will was messing around, so she brought me here. As she spoke, Betty lifted the hem of her skirt with both hands and spun around gracefully. Hey, actually, my maid skills are also good. Very high. Help me change into my clothes for going out. Will ordered with a blank expression. While undressing Will, Betty smiled charmingly. Master Will, why don't you do something interesting with me? Just like Miss Tracy serving you. Betty stared intentionally or unintentionally at the tent under Will. Will went directly to Baron Leo's room, but was told that Baron Leo had led a team out to find the Evelyn family. "I won't be back for a while." So Will found Captain Neeson on patrol outside the castle. In order to prevent the Evelyn family from attacking when the castle's defense force is empty, Baron Leo and Captain Neeson usually take turns defending the castle and looking for enemies. "Will, you just woke up this morning, and you're still injured. You haven't had a good rest, why did you come out?" Captain Neeson scolded Will softly. Will knew Captain Neeson was doing it for his own good, but Will had more pressing matters. "Uncle Neeson, about this incident, Will wanted to explain to Captain Neeson about the four-armed ghost ape. The four-armed ghost ape is very powerful and extremely vengeful. Once it is not handled properly, it is likely to cause a devastating blow to Albert Castle. You sneaked into the Red Moon Forest and now you have become a quasi-knight, I know all about it." Captain Neeson waved his hand. "I know you really want to prove your strength now, but your injury hasn't healed yet, this time you will never be allowed to participate in the action, just give up." Will knew Captain Neeson had misunderstood him. "This incident has nothing to do with the Evelyn family, it was done by the four-armed ghost ape," Will said bluntly. "Will, have you hurt your brain?" Captain Neeson was a little impatient. "This time it was definitely done by the Evelyn family. Do you think we gave up the interests of Delo Island and came back so many days earlier just because of you? That's because we came back in a hurry when we learned that Becky and Charlie wanted to attack the castle. It is estimated that Becky knew the news, but he didn't want to return without success, so he did such a despicable thing now. The four-armed ghost ape is just something in legends, don't think about it anymore," Captain Neeson explained. "So those people are Becky and Charlie from the Evelyn family?" Will finally knew who the group of people he met that day was. Will was wondering why there was an extra knight near the territory. And there is such a powerful young quasi-knight? It turned out to be from the Evelyn family. Therefore, Will told Captain Neeson about his encounter with the four-armed ghost ape, his encounter with the Evelyn family when he was escaping, Becky's death, and the destruction of the Evelyn family. Unexpectedly, Captain Neeson not only did not believe Will's words, but also became even more angry. "You said you avoided the sneak attack of the four-armed ghost ape and were chased by the four-armed ghost ape all night?" Captain Neeson asked. "Right." Will nodded. "You were besieged by the Evelyn family when you were escaping, and you chopped off Charlie's leg?" Captain Neeson asked again. "Yeah." Will nodded. "Becky intercepted you, cut you with a sword, and was killed by the four-armed ghost ape who was chasing after you?" Captain Neeson's face was already a bit ferocious. "Becky's sword didn't hit me, but I blocked it," Will explained. "Nonsense." Captain Neeson got on his horse. "Nickon, escort Master Will back to the castle. Uncle Neeson, the dead members of the Evelyn family should still be there." Will knew that what he said was too horrifying and outrageous, but he was telling the truth. Captain Neeson didn't listen to Will at all. Captain Neeson shook the reins and went on patrol on horseback. Will tried to catch up, but was blocked by Nickon. Nickon shook his head slightly at Will, and said, "Master Will, it's useless for you to chase after him. Do you think Master Neeson will believe your words? It will only make Master Neeson even more angry." Nickon has a good point. Why doesn't Will understand? It's just that the matter is of great importance at this time, and the more the delay, the greater the loss. I'm afraid that in the end, the Albert family's strength will be greatly reduced, and it will become a local second-rate family, unable to even hold its territory. This is not Will's alarmist talk. Because this is what actually happened. 100 years ago, although the Albert family was not as powerful as it is now, it was still a very powerful family with 3 knights. Until it was attacked by the four-armed ghost ape. The 3 knights united with dozens of heavily armored soldiers, and the entire army was wiped out. Only the patriarch of the Albert family survived, and he died of serious injuries shortly thereafter. Even after paying such a high price, he couldn't kill the four-armed ghost ape. Just repelled. Since then, the Albert family has fallen into a period of decline. It wasn't until 100 years later that Baron Leo emerged, and another knight emerged. Will you trust me? Will thought of a good idea. I want to believe you too. It's just that what you said is really unimaginable. According to records, the strength of the four-armed ghost ape is equivalent to that of a great knight. At night? And Charlie, you broke one of Charlie's legs just by meeting him? I saw that Charlie fought, and now I can't survive 20 moves under Charlie's hands. As for you? Nicken knew that Will was a genius among geniuses, and over time, he would definitely be stronger than Charlie. Now? 20 strokes? Will smiled. How many strokes do you think you can hold against me? Nicken's pupils shrank at Will's words. Since childhood, Nicken has been compared to Will. But no matter what, Nicken was overwhelmed by Will. In the first 15 years of his career, Nicken could only live in Will's shadow. Until Nicken became a quasi-knight. But even so, people still feel that Nicken is far inferior to Will, and that Will surpass Nicken sooner or later. The small victory lasted for a year. From now on, Nicken will live in Will's shadow again. But... you think you are better than me? Nicken laughed. Don't be so arrogant. Clang. Nicken drew his sword. The weak always take the words of the strong as arrogance. Nicken, let me show you the gap between us. Will slowly pulled out the long sword at his waist. Nicken held the sword in both hands, put on a defensive posture, and his face was solemn. Although he didn't feel that Will could defeat him in his heart, Nicken still didn't let up at all. Since you don't come, I'll go first. After all, Will's momentum changed, and his eyes instantly became sharp. There was a flash of white light all over Will's body. Nicken only felt a huge and unstoppable force coming from the blade of the sword in Nicken's hand was blown away, and Will's sword took advantage of the situation to rest on Nicken's neck. Riding, knight? Nicken stared blankly. The quasi-knight can only stimulate the vitality of a certain part of the body, thereby instantly increasing the strength of a certain part of the body. Only a true knight can stimulate the vitality of the whole body and improve the overall strength of the body. How is my strength? Powerful. How is Charlie compared to me? Not as good. Are you convinced? Clothes. Nicken knelt down towards Will with a terrified face. Master Will, from today onwards, you are my master, I am the sharpest sword in your hand, and I am willing to dedicate everything to you. Nicken swore to Will Road. This is the most solemn declaration of knighthood. Nicken has already convinced Will, and he can no longer feel a little resistance in his heart. If it's a little bit different, people will be jealous. If the difference is huge, worlds apart, then we can only look up. Although Nicken is very talented, even compared with Baron Leo, he is not far behind. But if you want to become a knight, you still have at least 10 years to go. Will, on the other hand, is already a knight. Now do you believe what I just said? Will put the sword back into its scabbard. I believe. Nicken replied hesitantly. Will could see that Nicken still had some disbelief in his heart. Come with me, I'll show you something. Will led the way on horseback, Nicken followed closely behind. After a while, Will took Nicken to a sparse grove. Go deep into the woods and keep going. In front, several broken corpses appeared. The corpses were broken and incomplete. The only thing these corpses have in common is that their heads were smashed and their brains disappeared. It is. Nicken said in surprise. You think right. These are the members of the Evelyn family. Look, that's Becky Evelyn. Will pointed to one of the corpses. Nicken jumped off his horse and came to the rotting corpse that Will was pointing at. Nicken fumbled around the corpse for a long time without being too dirty, and found a token with the face of a swift panther printed on it. This is the knight token of the Evelyn family. Nicken looked at Becky's body with a complicated expression. Ignoring Nicken's thoughts, Will pointed to a corpse with a broken foot not far away and said, that should be the Charlie you are talking about. Nicken didn't go to check to see if the man was Charlie. Master Will, I didn't expect that what you said was true. Nicken sighed. Let's leave first, it's not easy to talk here. Will said, covering his nose. There are broken corpses everywhere, and most of them are rotting and stinking. There are still many marks of being bitten by fierce beasts. It is not known whether it was done by the four-armed ghost ape, or other fierce beasts in the Red Moon Forest. Nicken, I need your help with an important matter, which is related to the survival of the Albert family. Will said with a serious face. Just tell me. Nicken said with firm eyes. Chapter 12. Inside Albert Castle. Baron Leo led the way with a torch, and Will followed. The two spiraled down the stairs. The second floor, the first floor, and the negative first floor have already arrived at the underground warehouse, but the two still have no intention of stopping. In a dark and damp corner of the basement on the first floor, there was a heavy rusted iron door on the ground. Will, are you ready? Leo's voice was gloomy. Will didn't answer. All the answers are self-evident. Baron Leo took a deep look at Will, then picked up the iron ring and pulled it up hard. Clang! The iron door laid flat on the ground was pulled open, revealing a dark and deep passage. A gust of cold wind gushes from the depths of the tunnel. With Hu, it was like the wail of the dead. There was a sweet smell of blood in the wind. Will walked to the passage and looked down. There was only darkness in his eyes, and he seemed to see countless ghosts in the darkness. Let's go. Baron Leo held the torch and walked down immediately. The weak light source of the torch illuminates the front and dispels the darkness. Only by standing on the torch can you feel a little warmth. Will hurried after him, putting his body around the torch. Da-da-da-da. The footsteps of Will and Baron Leo spread far away, echoing in the darkness. In the dark distance, what echoed the footsteps was a shrill scream. The stairs down are not long. After walking for less than 10 seconds, the stairs in front of him turned, and his eyes suddenly lit up. What appeared in front of Will was a straight passage with burning torches on both sides of the passage, and behind the torches were cages with iron bars. Behind the cage, there are pale and desperate faces. Death row. Everyone imprisoned here is mortal. Some people have committed such a heinous crime that death is not a pity. Some people made serious mistakes and caused huge losses to the family. And some people, it's just because they offended some people who shouldn't be offended. This is the darkest and most desperate place in Albert Castle. Baron Leo opened one of the cages and walked in. Inside, hung a pale human body. With grey hair, wrinkled face, thin limbs, and frail body covered with welts, it looks like a poor old man who has been tortured, which makes people unbearable to look at. The moment he saw the old man's face clearly, Will's mouth widened in surprise. "Ah, Butler Arnold?" Will exclaimed. "Master?" The old man named Anyo opened his eyes weakly. Will once had a maid, and a butler. The personal maid is Trish. And the personal butler is the butler Arnold in front of him. Half a year ago, Will was informed by Baron Leo that the butler Arnold had gone home to retire. Although Will was reluctant about this, he could only bless butler Arnold. After all, Butler Arnold is over 60 years old, and he is considered a long-lived old man in this world. It's time to go home and enjoy the happiness. Unexpectedly, the housekeeper Arnold, who thought he had gone home to recuperate, was actually imprisoned in a death row cage. "Master Will, help me, help me!" Arnold asked Will for help in a weak voice. Will lowered his head, not knowing what to think. "Arnyo, when you were the housekeeper, he was greedy for your money, collected beauties in your name in the countryside, and used them for his own enjoyment. You thought I didn't know? Because of your relationship, I have already given him a chance." Baron Leo looked cold. Will clenched his right hand and blasted out. Steward Arnold's chest sank suddenly, and a fist-sized hole appeared. Butler Arnold vomited a mouthful of blood, his eyes were distracted, and his breath slowly disappeared. Will and Baron Leo left the cell where Butler Arnold was held and came to another room. The person held in this cell was a middle-aged man whom Will didn't know. The middle-aged man was covered in blood, and his face was extremely hideous due to the torture of the torture equipment. When he saw Will and Baron Leo walking in, he immediately roared wildly, and tried to spit on Will and the others. Baron Leo's face darkened, he rushed up and slapped you hard. The opponent's face was suddenly deformed by Baron Leo, and his teeth were almost broken. Terry, who used to be a member of the guard, was kicked out of the guard because of his misconduct. After leaving the guard, Trey pretended to be our Albert family and forced taxes everywhere, forcing 3 people to death and causing 7 households fled the territory. As he spoke, Baron Leo slapped Trey several times. The territory of Baron Leo is only a few hundred households. Terry alone forced 17 households away. Will stepped forward and put his hand on Terry's head. "Make an effort." Click. There was a broken sound from Trey's head, and Trey himself was instantly brain dead. Next, Baron Leo took Will to meet 3 more people. Each of these 3 people deserved what they deserved, and they deserved more than death. After Will killed them one by one, Will and Baron Leo returned to the first floor. Baron Leo stared at Will with complicated eyes. Ever since he entered the death row, Will kept his head down without saying a word. "Will, there is light and darkness in this world. This is the path you have to go through." Baron Leo looked at Will's eyes with relief and worry. "I'm very glad that you can take the initiative to ask me to understand these things. Go back and have a good rest today." "Okay." Will said goodbye to Baron Leo and walked towards the bedroom. Looking at Will going away, Baron Leo sighed. These things should have been taken slowly and handed over to you step by step. After today, I hope you can grow up. Baron Leo thought of the dead Delia again, unexpectedly. I still let Will. You won't forgive me for going down this path, will you? Will went back to the room. After killing 5 people, Will's eyes remained unchanged. Because those 5 people deserve to die. Of course, this is what Baron Leo deliberately did. There are still many people detained in death row cages, and among them there must be many who were innocent and wronged, and many whose crimes did not warrant death. Because he was afraid that Will would not be able to bear it, he carefully selected 5 that would not cause psychological burden. The reason Will asked Baron Leo to go to the death row was to prepare for taking over the title in the future, and to get in touch with all aspects of the Albert family step by step, no matter the light or the dark. In fact, Blue Spirit. A translucent interface appeared in front of Will's eyes. Source power, 37. Among the 5 people, 4 gave 7 points of source power, 1 gave 8 points of source power, plus the remaining 1 point from last time. How to calculate the source power points? With personal strength? Not like. Soul quality? Not like. Vitality? Not like. Will just thought about it for a while, and then stopped struggling. As long as you keep using it, you will figure it out one day. Will glanced at the skill bar on Lan Ling's interface. The threat of the 4-armed ghost ape has not disappeared. At this stage, strength is the most important thing. In fact, no matter what stage, strength is the most important. Will consumed 16 points of source power to upgrade the Knight's breathing method to level 5. Will closed his eyes, silently feeling the changes in his body. After a long time, Will opened his eyes excitedly. Glorious armor, Great Knight. Above the Knight is the Great Knight. After becoming a Great Knight, you can condense your vitality around the body surface, defend against attacks, and ignore ordinary bows and arrows. Only at the level of a Great Knight can one be considered to have the strength of a one-man enemy army. The strengthening speed of the body is much faster. At this speed, even if I don't do any exercise, I can naturally become a Great Knight after a year. I don't know how powerful the Knight breathing method will bring me after level 5? Will smiled and looked at the Lan Ling interface. Hey? The Knight's breathing method turned grey, and the skill upgrade button behind it also disappeared. Will pondered for a while. It should be that the Knight breathing method I learned can only be practiced to this extent. After all, the Blue Spirit system only speeds up my cultivation speed, and cannot generate energy and knowledge out of thin air. Will guessed so. As for whether this is the case, it can only be verified slowly in the future. Now that the Knight breathing method has been upgraded to the limit, Will's eyes turned to the other 2 skills. Basic Swordsmanship, Level 3. Upgrade Basic Fencing, yes/no. Will tapped twice on the yes option with his consciousness. Consume 2 points of source power, and upgrade the Basic Swordsmanship to Level 4. Consume 3 points of source power, and upgrade the Basic Swordsmanship to Level 5. Will felt a thunderbolt flash in his mind, his eyes went dark, and his consciousness seemed to be locked in a dark cage. The darkness gradually dissipated, and a figure appeared in front of Will's eyes. A figure very similar to Will. The figure began to practice swordsmanship, and Will could see clearly that that person was practicing basic swordsmanship. Swordsmanship went from unfamiliar to proficient. I don't know if it's an illusion, but looking at the figure practicing the sword, Will felt that his understanding of the sword was constantly improving, as if he was the one practicing the sword. Footwork, bodywork, and swordsmanship gradually merged into one, turned into instinct, and merged into Will's body. Only basic swordsmanship at level 5 shouldn't be the only level. Will frowned. At this time, the surrounding environment changed. Enemies began to appear around the figure, including humans, beasts, and aliens. The terrain of the battle is also constantly changing. Sometimes it is flat ground, sometimes it is a steep slope, sometimes it is a puddle, and it is ever changing. Will realized something in his heart. The so-called swordsmanship is nothing more than the routine skills summed up when fighting and killing the enemy. Different enemies, different environments, and the use of swordsmanship will also change accordingly. This is no longer an ordinary swordsmanship. In combat, one has to consider the number of enemies, the size of the enemy's weapons, one must know how to use the surrounding environment, and one must also know how to use psychological tactics. Swordsmanship is different from cultivation. Will now has the cultivation base of a great knight, but his body needs time to grow and adapt. But swordsmanship is different. Yes, yes, no, no. For a moment, Will returned to the familiar room. It turns out that this is swordsmanship. Will sighed. Really brilliant swordsmanship, there are no routines or moves at all. The moves are constantly changing depending on the enemy and the environment, and the routines are arranged while exploring the enemy's psychology. Next, it's time for archery. Will looked excitedly at the archery option. Upgrade basic archery, yes/no. Yes. Yes. Chapter 13. Night is getting stronger. On the plains, weeds grow in disorderly clusters in the east and west. Surrounded by the sound of frogs and insects, dots of fluorescent light fluttered and danced in the air, which were the figures of fireflies. The sudden appearance of a figure broke the harmony of the environment. After listening to the frog and insect sonata, the subtle fluorescence also dimmed. It was a man in a black hooded cloak. The whole body is hidden in the darkness, the eyes are scattered and lifeless, the hands exposed outside the cloak are slender and pale, and the figure cannot feel a trace of warmth. Anyone with experience will tell you it's a dead man. The pupils are dilated. Not breathing. The skin of the body loses blood and turns white. This is not a dead person, so what is a dead person? But this person who should have been dead was walking at this moment, his pace was slow but firm. The head is also shaking around, observing the surrounding scene. The sound of frogs and insects sounded again, and the starlight of fireflies danced in the air again. Mosquitoes condensed into groups flew past the figures, but none of them flew up to suck blood. This man is not dead, nor is he a walking corpse. It's Will. 5 days ago, Will learned a technique called breath holding from a hunting team leader in the castle. The breath holding technique can slow down one's own breathing, reduce the body's energy consumption, and weaken one's breath, which is very useful when hunting around. Breath holding is very simple, just a small trick to adjust the heart rate. Ordinary people can also adjust the heartbeat, but it's not that powerful. And Will's current cultivation realm has reached the level of a great knight, and his control over his body surpasses that of ordinary people. Therefore, it only took half a day for Will to get started with the breath holding technique. Then he used 8 points of source power to upgrade the breath holding technique to level 5. Origin power, 10. Will's 5-level breath holding technique is actually more than simply slowing down the heartbeat and breathing. Instead, adjust your breathing freely. Slow down the heartbeats for 3 minutes. Quick heartbeat 251 minutes. Slowing down the heartbeat can weaken one's breath. But it is very dangerous, because at the same time, it will also greatly reduce the body's reaction ability, defense, and senses, greatly weakening one's own strength, and it is very likely that someone will take the opportunity to be seriously injured. And speeding up the heartbeat and blood circulation can greatly stimulate the body's potential in a short time, and use the body to overload. But the aftermath is just as powerful. Accelerating your heart rate can be extremely taxing on your body. And in this state, you can't get injured, especially a serious injury to a blood vessel, otherwise the blood will gush out like water like a faucet turned to the end. Will was dressed in black, activated his breath hold technique, and had a heartbeat of 3 beats per minute. The slower the heartbeat, the greater the decline in strength. 3 beats per minute is a heartbeat rate that Will has tested many times to maintain a certain combat power and recover quickly. Will glanced around blankly. Will walked slowly for more than an hour, but he didn't meet anyone. Recently, due to the 4-armed ghost ape, the number of people who dare to walk around Albert Castle at night has decreased a lot. Will continued to roam the nocturnal wilderness. There are fewer people, but it doesn't mean there are no more. No, in the distance, there is an empty bullock cart. The wheels creaked out of Lent Town, passed near Albert Castle, and drove to the distant village. Will followed. Will's footsteps may seem slow, but they are actually very fast. Able to match the trotting speed of an ordinary adult. Will followed closely behind the bullock cart 100 meters away. Will didn't deliberately hide or seek cover. A strange thing happened. The people on the bullock cart glanced at the place where Will was standing, but they didn't notice it. Will. A distance of 100 meters is not too far. Due to Will's amazing physical fitness, and his hearing is beyond the reach of others, Will can still barely hear the conversation of the 2 people on the bullock cart. Will knew from the conversation between the 2 that they were people from Bomu village to Lunt town for the market. It takes 2 hours to travel by ox cart from Bomu village to Lunt town. Usually, in the morning, when the white belly appears in the east, people start to set off, and the sun begins to sting people to come to Lunt town. After buying and selling things, they go home at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and they arrive home just after dark. And today there was an accident, a wheel broke. As a result, it was almost 9 o'clock before the two drove out of Lunt town in a bullock cart. This kind of thing happens from time to time, and the two of them are very familiar with the road, and the weather is not bad tonight, so it's nothing. The two were talking and laughing in the carriage. As we talked about what happened in Albert Castle recently. I heard that the Baron's family is haunted by vengeful spirits, and they have to eat human brains every night. Who knows if this noble thing is true? Someone in the town advised us not to walk on this road at night. Should we listen to them? How can we have money to stay? Those stories are made up by merchants to deceive people. They want to make money from us. Don't look at those people who speak nicely. They seem to be for your own good, but they are actually very bad. But they said it in a decent way, not like lying. Then let's go faster. Clap clap. The whip beat the old cow. Moo. The bullock cart suddenly picked up speed. While the two people on the bullock cart were talking, a tall black figure had appeared near the bullock cart. Bloodthirsty eyes stared at the two people on the bullock cart. The four-arms looked so terrifying in the dark. Call. The four-armed ghost ape growled excitedly, and his figure sped up immediately. Will watched the figure of the four-armed ghost ape. Boom boom boom. Heartbeat. From 3 beats per minute, it returned to the normal level. Take out a strong bow. The body of this bow is made of high-quality crossbars, and the strings come from the hamstrings of bulls. This pair of strong bows, for ordinary knights, requires a burst of vitality to be fully drawn. Exploding vitality is very exhausting. Ordinary quasi-knights can only explode 3 or 5 times of vitality before their bodies collapse. The knight is more powerful, but only a dozen times. Will's current physical strength is similar to that of ordinary knights, but Will himself has the cultivation base of a great knight, and his control over vitality is completely beyond the reach of ordinary knights. Will can fully burst out 21 vitality. Of course, this refers to normal circumstances. If the vitality of the whole body explodes, it will consume much more vitality, and Will can only use it 2 or 3 times. Will raised his bow at the four-armed ghost ape. Start measuring the effects of wind speed, gravity, air resistance, etc. on the alignment head. Aim. Shoot. Ah! The black arrow turned into a stream of light and hit the four-armed ghost ape's left calf. Half of the iron arrow pierced into the calf of the four-armed ghost ape. The four-armed ghost ape angrily pulled out the iron arrow, and a mass of flesh was hooked on the arrow. If it is an ordinary knight, one leg has been abolished. However, the four-armed ghost ape is not an ordinary knight. The four-armed ghost ape is a monster whose strength is comparable to that of a great knight. The people on the bullock cart heard the roar and looked around blankly. No abnormalities were found. But he still shrank his neck and sped up the speed. The four-armed ghost ape stared at Will, howling angrily and excitedly. Excited. The enemy I have been obsessed with is right in front of me. Anger. This has happened many times in the past few days, but not once can tear the enemy apart, and each time Will runs away. The four-armed ghost ape landed on 6 limbs, and quickly ran towards Will. Will shot the arrow and backed away. On the way the four-armed ghost monkey approached Will shot a total of 3 arrows. 2 were dodged by the four-armed ghost ape. 1 shot hit the four-armed ghost ape in the right shoulder. The four-armed ghost ape was only 10 meters away from Will. Will threw away his strong bow and drew out his knight's sword. The four-armed ghost monkey kept hammering at Will with its 4 arms. The attack has no technical content. Yes, just absolute power. Every blow of the four-armed ghost ape is as powerful as the burst of vitality in Will's whole body. Will fights and retreats. Even with the unloading technique, every time Will blocked the attack of the four-armed ghost ape, he still had to explode his vitality. For the attack of the four-armed ghost ape, Will dodges as much as he can, and only blocks it when he has to. Another punch. The four-armed ghost ape casserole-sized fist hit the blade of Will's knight's sword. Sparks fly. A faint bloodstain appeared on the fist of the four-armed ghost ape. Will's knight's sword broke a hole. Will was forced back 7 steps by the huge strength of the four-armed ghost ape. Every step leaves a footprint on the muddy ground. The footprints are getting shallower. When Will took the 7th step, there were almost no footprints, which meant that Will had lost all his strength. What a monster! Will and the four-armed ghost ape had only been fighting for a few minutes, and Will had already used his vitality 17 times. This kind of guy is invincible. Will started to back away from the castle. How could the four-armed ghost ape allow Will to escape safely? The four-armed ghost ape is faster than Will, stronger than Will, and stronger than Will. However, Will has already figured out the attack mode of the four-armed ghost ape. Will now seems to be fighting the four-armed ghost ape with a strategy. Because there is too little blue and not enough medicine, the four-armed ghost ape cannot be killed. But running is still easy. Every attack of the four-armed ghost ape was seen through by Will. Will's fake moves successfully confuse the four-armed ghost ape every time. Fighting is not just about physical fitness. It's not just swordsmanship either. And psychology. As long as you can see through the enemy's psychology, you can see through the enemy's actions and predict the enemy's next attack. The intelligence of the four-armed ghost ape is actually quite good, comparable to that of a 10-year-old child. The problem is that the four-armed ghost ape has not been trained, and the attack does not know any skills and routines. Although there are many battles, there are very few who can be called experience. Because in the past, the four-armed ghost ape used brute force to crush the opponent when fighting. Half an hour later, Will used his vitality 3 more times. Will's physical strength has almost bottomed out. If there is a dense forest around, Will can last longer, but unfortunately this is a plain, surrounded by only weeds and sparse trees. But enough is enough. In half an hour, Will had arrived near the patrol. There are more and more patrols around Albert Castle, and the number of equipment is also increasing. The older the better. Coming near the patrol team, the four-armed ghost ape could only howl and retreat into the darkness. The four-armed ghost ape's scarlet eyes stared at Will coldly. Will stared back, not to be outdone. Chapter 14. Will evaded the patrol and slipped into the castle quietly. Back to the room. Master Will, are you all right? Seeing Will's distressed appearance, Nicken in the room became worried. It's okay, you can go back. Will sent Nicken away. These days, every night, Will has Nicken in his bedroom pretending to be him. Nicken and Will are about the same age, and their looks are 7 or 8 points similar. Wearing Will's clothes, even Baron Leo couldn't be seen from a distance in the dimly lit room. He used the excuse that he was still weak and had to rest early. Will returns to his room early at 7 or 8 o'clock every night, closes the door to rest, and refuses all services and visits. In fact, in the room, is the Nicken. The real Will had already left Albert Castle and went outside to look for the four-armed ghost ape. After so many days of fighting against the four-armed ghost ape, Will's combat effectiveness became stronger and stronger. In the beginning, Will didn't dare to confront the four-armed ghost ape at all. Now, Will has been able to resist for a few minutes. In the battle tonight, the four-armed ghost ape should not continue to hurt people. Will sighed, I hope Father will hurry up, and the four-armed ghost ape can't let the four-armed ghost continue to wreak havoc. At first, the people in the castle and Baron Leo thought that the murderer was from the Evelyn family. But gradually, Baron Leo noticed something was wrong. Once, Baron Leo decided to listen to Will's words, and he and Will came to the residence of the Evelyn family. In the grove where corpses should have been strewn across the field, the corpses disappeared out of thin air. Only a trace of blood remained in the corner. Beast? Will didn't know. Baron Leo, who had planned to believe Will, became suspicious again because the bodies of the Evelyn family were gone. But here, there is indeed blood. After careful inspection, there are indeed traces of being stationed here, and the number of people is about 30. Baron Leo doesn't trust Will, and he can't change the fact. Dead man, keep happening. Each of them was shredded and their brains disappeared. Recently, there have been quite a few people who survived the attack of the four-armed ghost ape. Saved by Will. 2 meters tall, ape-like, with 4 arms. All these symptoms told Baron Leo that it was not the Evelyn family that attacked Albert Castle, but the four-armed ghost ape. Due to the repeated attacks of the four-armed ghost ape, the people in the castle were panicked. Many people have left. In the surrounding villages and towns, there are rumors that the Albert family is possessed by grievances, and there are also rumors that the Albert family is cursed. In the territory, some residents began to leave. Can't go on like this. Baron Leo made a decisive decision immediately. Baron Leo had summoned the knights in the territory yesterday. Grote, Bob, Vaden, the 3 knights under Baron Leo, plus Captain Neeson, Baron Leo himself, a total of 5 knights. 100 years ago, the ancestors of the Albert family paid a huge price to repel the four-armed ghost ape. Now, under the threat of the four-armed ghost ape, the Albert family has gathered 5 knights. This time, he vowed to kill the four-armed ghost ape. Tonight evening, the last knight also entered Albert Castle. Tomorrow night, the four-armed ghost ape will be ambushed and killed. Will changed his clothes and straightened his hair. Ring the bell. A few minutes later, Trish, who was wearing a maid uniform, opened the door and entered. Tracy breathed a little messy. Master Will, do you have anything to do with me? Tracy's cheeks were flushed, her eyes blurred. Get me a late-night snack, and order more. Will ordered. Ah! Tracy immediately realized her gaffe, apologized and exited the room. Trish thought Will was looking for her to serve her bed. Master Will is not in good health yet, he needs to rest, and he can't be too tired and exhausted. Tracy said to herself, is it really bad for people who eat so much at each meal? After a while, Trish put all thoughts behind her. Trish didn't think much about it. Trish is a qualified maid. Regarding the master's secrets, the master does not tell, never asks, and does not take the initiative to think. Will ate his supper and went to sleep. Tomorrow night, it will be a decisive battle. Will was a little excited, although the strength of the four-armed ghost ape is very strong, but based on my understanding of the four-armed ghost ape, plus me in the dark, there is also an unknown Baron Leo, a total of 6 knights should be enough. Night. Silence. Like the calm before the storm. A tall figure with 4 arms avoided the patrols one by one and came to the moat. The head with scarlet eyes looked around, jumped into the river, and swam to the edge of the city wall. The 5-meter-high city wall didn't seem to exist. All of a sudden climbed over. In the past, when it was thought that the Evelyn family attacked, there were still strong defense forces inside the city walls. But since it was known that it was the four-armed ghost ape, and the four-armed ghost ape had been attacking people outside the castle, all the personnel in the castle were transferred to patrol outside. The huge body of the four-armed ghost ape landed lightly. There was a sly gleam in his eyes. Will fell asleep. The whole castle is asleep. They are all accumulating strength for tomorrow's battle. However, things are always not as expected. Boom! The window of Will's bedroom exploded, and the four-armed ape roared excitedly. As soon as he entered the room, the dark body of the four-armed ghost ape couldn't wait to rush to Will's bed. On the bed, Will was still fast asleep. The deafening bang woke Will from his sleep. At this time, the dark shadow has shrouded Will, and the god of death has covered Will's neck, ready to harvest Will's life at any time. A cold air rose from the bottom of Will's heart, and then flooded all over Will's body. The ferocious face of the four-armed ghost ape, the terrifying fangs, and the bloody mouth are all in sight. Move! 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 Will's mind screamed wildly. Will opens his eyes, moves his hands, rolls his body, and opens his mouth. The four-armed ghost ape stretched its 4 arms, its fangs were exposed, and its pupils turned with Will's movement. In the midair, it approached Will centimeter by centimeter. It seems so slow. 27 seconds later, the four-armed ape could land on Will's bed and tear Will to pieces. Quiet. Will's heart stopped beating. Sudden. Thump thump. Will's heart beat faster. 20, 30, 50, 70, 102, 300 per second. Through the clothes, one could see Will's chest pulsating rapidly. Veins swelled all over Will. The roots of the vascular tree are all over Will's body, and the dense black and red blood vessels are squirming quickly in Will's body like an earthworm. Will's speed suddenly accelerated as if he had pressed a speed button. Then it stopped instantly. Will's body flew out of the bed. The bed was like paper, with a big hole suddenly sunken in the middle. In mid-air, a thick black hand stretched out towards Will. The arm hits Will's chest. Click! Will's chest sank suddenly. Broke 3 ribs. Boom! Will's body flew out like a cannonball and hit the wall. A spider web of cracks appeared on the wall behind him. Will opened his mouth, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. Blood mixed with minced meat. Wow! Will, whose body was still hanging on the wall, fell to the ground before he could wait. Using both hands and feet, he pushed hard against the wall behind him, then counteracted the force, and quickly rushed towards the broken window. Fly out the window! The cold moonlight of the 3 crescent moons poured on Will. Seeing the four-armed ghost ape flying out of the sky, Will's heart felt cold. As soon as he hit the ground, Will rolled on the spot. This roll is not only to relieve force, but also to avoid attacks. The four-armed ghost ape followed closely behind, and landed where Will had just landed. The ground shook for a while. Like an elephant falling from the sky, the smoke and dust billowed, and the gravel flew. Will's eyes were fixed on the direction where the four-armed ghost ape landed, his feet kicked, and his body flew backwards quickly. 1, 2, 3, left. Will knows the way the four-armed ape behaves like the back of his hand. Sure enough, after counting to 3, the four-armed ghost ape tore through the dust and rushed towards Will. Will rolls to the left. Aim at the head of the four-armed ghost ape with his right foot and kick hard. The four-armed ghost ape, who couldn't use his strength in the air, was kicked 10 meters away by Will's kick full of vitality. Ha 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 ha. Will didn't have time to breathe until then. Who? Enemy attack. Master, are you all right? 3 armored guards approached Will. Although most people have gone out to patrol, there are still quite a few people in the castle. The 3 guards showed good qualities, and did not immediately surround Will to ask his health. Instead, he took out his weapon, faced the direction where the four-armed ghost ape fell, and walked over step by step. Will's expression changed. Get out of the way. The four-armed ghost ape has already jumped out, grabbed a member of the guard, lifted it into the air, and tore it hard. Tear up. The captured guards were torn apart. Blood, internal organs, and limbs danced and sprinkled in the air. Strange, monster ah ah ah. The remaining 2 guards were so frightened that they lost their minds, they stood there screaming, and a foul smell flowed from their crotches. The four-armed ghost ape looked at the remaining 2 guards, with a bloodthirsty gleam in his eyes. The four-armed ghost ape roared and rushed towards the nearest guard. Will lowered his body, picked up a sword from the ground, and rushed towards the four-armed ghost ape. Get away! Will knocks one of the guards away with a shoulder bump. Will instantly stimulated the vitality of his whole body, and the white light all over Will shone like the rising sun. Die! The blow that condensed the strength of Will's whole body pierced the chest of the four-armed ghost ape. The sharp sword passed through the chest. Will was kicked in the middle by the furious four-armed ghost ape. Will's body folded and flew out in a single line. He flew a full 30 meters and rolled on the ground for more than 10 meters before stopping. Will's body was motionless, he was paralyzed on the ground like a salted fish, his eyes were loose. The four-armed ghost ape still couldn't let go of his hatred, uprooted a thigh-thick tree in the castle, and rushed towards Will, trying to smash Will into a meat paste. The four-armed ghost ape, who hated and was so angry with Will, didn't even want to eat Will. He just wanted to hit Will hard, smash Will, and smash Will into pieces. Bastard ah! A loud roar came from above the castle. Chapter 15. On a window on the 3rd floor of the castle, stood a mighty figure with his upper body naked. Baron Leo. Baron Leo held a 1.5 meter 5-finger wide sword forged from refined steel. This sword was made for Baron Leo by Baron Leo's father, Will's grandfather, when Baron Leo joined the army and exhausted his family's wealth. This great sword has been with Baron Leo for 31 years. Looking at Will, who fell unconscious on the ground not far away, Baron Leo was furious. Beast! Die! Baron Leo's body was condensed with silver-white light, like a silver meteor falling from the sky. The four-armed ghost ape felt a deadly threat from Baron Leo. Eyes had to look away from Will. The four-armed ghost ape hugged the tree and threw it at Baron Leo in mid-air. Baron Leo slashed at the tree trunk with a sword, cutting the whole tree along the trunk like a bamboo, and the great sword in his hand slashed at the chest of the four-armed ghost ape with undiminished power. A hideous wound with deep visible bones stretched across the abdomen from the left shoulder, appearing on the body of the four-armed ghost ape. The four-armed ghost ape has lived for hundreds of years and has always been the overlord of the forest. When did you experience such a loss? Facing the four-arms captured by the four-armed ghost ape, Baron Leo showed despair. The sword just now was already the strongest sword Baron Leo could slash, and that sword consumed 2/3 of Baron Leo's vitality. Baron Leo is confident that even a great knight cannot resist that sword. Although the strength of the four-armed ghost ape was comparable to that of a great knight, under that sword, even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. But Baron Leo forgot. The strength of the great knight of the four-armed ghost ape relies on its strong body and absolute strength. It is completely different from the great knight who relies on skills and uses vitality to fight. In terms of pure physical defense, the four-armed ghost ape is far above the big knight. 3 streaks of light flew towards the four-armed ghost ape's left eye, right leg, and crotch. Although the arrow was blocked by the four-armed ghost ape, it also bought time for Baron Leo to escape. A silver-haired but energetic old man came out with a bow and arrow. One of the 3 knights under Baron Leo. Bob. That bow was the same one Will was using. But Knight Bob doesn't need a burst of vitality at all to draw his bow fully. Not because Bob Knight is stronger than Will, nor because Bob Knight is better than Will with the bow. It's because Bob Knight's decades of archery career have caused deformities in Bob Knight's musculoskeletal changes. This change is harmful to the body, but it can make people draw the bow more effortlessly and more accurately. Immersed in archery all his life, Knight Bob is really an admirable knight. Lord Baron, I have summoned the guards. After Bob finished speaking, he immediately heard the low sound of horns coming from the top of the castle. The sound of this kind of horn is not very loud, but it spreads extremely far, and can be clearly heard 3 kilometers away. As soon as the members of the patrol outside heard the sound of the horn, they would immediately rush towards the castle. The four-armed ghost ape doesn't care that much. The four-armed ghost ape rushed straight towards Baron Leo, and the four-armed ghost instinctively felt that as long as Baron Leo was killed, no one around would be able to threaten it. When the time comes, it will come and go when it wants. Lord Baron, now is not the time to relax. A man with a sullen look helped Baron Leo deflect the attack of the four-armed ghost ape with a sword. This person is none other than Groat Knight. Behind the four-armed ghost ape, a middle-aged handsome man in exquisite armor with a small beard, holding a 2-finger-wide rapier and slashing at the four-armed ghost ape's back. Valding Knight. There are tiny lines engraved on the rapier of Knight Vaden. A black liquid continuously flowed out from the hilt, and the black liquid flowed along the lines. This black liquid is highly poisonous. As long as the skin is scratched, it can make a porcupine faint to death. But this highly poisonous slash on the four-armed ghost ape had no effect. It's a terrifying physical strength. Knight Vaden exclaimed. This is a four-armed ghost ape, a legendary monster. Captain Neeson came out of the darkness with a cold expression. Captain Neeson, Knight Vaden, Knight Bob, Knight Groat, and Baron Leo, the 5 knights gathered together to deal with a monster, the four-armed ghost ape. Streamers of light shot out from the hands of Knight Bob, covering the four-armed ghost ape in all directions. Baron Leo, as the strongest person present, is the absolute main force, and only Baron Leo can block the four-armed ghost head-on. Groat was on the sidelines assisting Baron Leo and sharing the pressure for Baron Leo. Neeson, as the most powerful among the 5 knights present, alternated with Baron Leo as the main force, blocking the four-armed ghost ape head-on. Baron Waiting was elusive, appearing from time to time to cut a sword on the four-armed ghost ape. As long as it is a toxin, it is inseparable from the dose. Regardless of dosage, talking about toxicity is all hooliganism. The poison of Baron Warding Swordsman was not powerful at first, but as time went by, it gradually took effect on the four-armed ghost ape, affecting the four-armed ghost ape's movements. Wrap it around. Bob Knight commanded while shooting an arrow. For 4 weeks, more than a dozen guards have gathered. The members of the guards held ropes as thick as a baby's arm. This kind of rope could withstand tens of thousands of kilograms of force, and even a four-armed ghost ape would not be able to break it. Call. A rope was tied to the four-armed ghost ape, and 2 members of the guards were struggling to pull on the 2 ends of the rope. But even if 4 people are pulling the rope, its strength is still too small for the four-armed ghost ape. The four-armed ghost ape grabbed a section of the rope with one hand and shook it vigorously. The people at both ends of the rope were dragged by the huge force of the four-armed ghost ape and fell to the ground. Suppress it! Baron Leo roared, and greeted the four-armed ghost ape. Captain Neeson also howled, his muscles bulging all over his body, and the clothes on his upper body were shredded by the muscles. He held the heavy sword in both hands and slashed at the four-armed ghost ape. Groat, who had been assisting the attack, also attacked the four-armed ghost ape. The figure of Knight Vaden skirted around the four-armed ghost ape, and the thin sword in his hand left a series of sword marks on the four-armed ghost ape. The powerful and ferocious four-armed ghost ape was actually suppressed. But everyone knows that this is only temporary. It can only be suppressed for half a minute. The second, third, fourth. A series of ropes were tied to the four-armed ghost ape, restricting the four-armed ghost ape's movements. Fire the arrows! Knight Bob waved his hand, and a rain of arrows enveloped the four-armed ghost ape. Baron Leo and his 4 knights withdrew from the four-armed ghost ape, each holding a rope with each hand. The arrow rain shot the four-armed ghost ape, but did not cause fatal injuries. Archery. Bob Knight waved again. Another wave of arrows flew towards the four-armed ghost ape. At the same time, Knight Bob also bent his bow and shot an arrow. The sharp arrow hidden in the rain of arrows hit the four-armed ghost ape's left eye, and the arrow sank into the four-armed ghost ape's eyeball. The four-armed ghost ape howled crazily. Everyone here breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that the situation was settled. Facing a desperate situation, the four-armed ghost ape also erupted with the most powerful force. The four-armed ghost ape kicked its feet on the ground, bursting out with the most powerful force since its debut. The body of the four-armed ghost ape rushed towards Baron Leo like a shell, and the rope on his body could not hinder the four-armed ghost ape's movement at all. Baron Leo's eyes turned cold, and the big sword stabbed towards the chest of the four-armed ghost ape. The four-armed ghost ape didn't dodge Baron Leo's stabbing sword, and grabbed Baron Leo's sword with 4 hands. "Humph, dare to grab my sword with your hands?" Baron Leo shook his sword, and the 2 arms of the four-armed ghost ape were instantly severed. Baron Leo's sword sliced through the abdomen of the four-armed ghost ape, and the intestines of the four-armed ghost ape flowed out from the wound. Not good. The four-armed ghost ape bit Baron Leo's right hand. Click. Baron Leo's right hand was cut off at the root. Roar. The four-armed ghost ape grabbed one end of a certain rope with the remaining 2 arms, and pulled and shook it vigorously. A person holding a rope was swayed by the four-armed ghost ape and ran towards Bob Knight. Boom. The bodies of the guards members hit the ground, and their bodies were shattered into pieces. Knight Bob managed to avoid the human attack of the four-armed ghost ape. Before he could react, a black shadow came from the sky and stepped on Knight Bob. The upper body of Knight Bob immediately turned into meat sauce. Woo! The four-armed ghost ape hammered his chest fiercely, and glanced at Baron Leo and the others with anger in his eyes, as if he wanted to engrave their figures deeply in his heart. Then he turned around and rushed out of the castle. Don't let it escape. Stop it. Kill. After several people standing in front of the four-armed ghost ape were torn to pieces, no one dared to stand in front of the four-armed ghost ape again. Even in the face of the seriously injured four-armed ghost ape, no one except the knight could block the angry blow of the four-armed ghost ape. Break into the castle, kill so many people, want to leave? A cold sword light pierced obliquely upwards from the left waist of the four-armed ghost ape, and penetrated the body of the four-armed ghost ape. Will held the sword with a frosty face. The four-armed ghost stared at Will unwillingly, with blankness and anger in his eyes, and finally all his emotions turned into fear. Ah, ow, ow. The four-armed ghost ape yelled 3 times, and fell forward. Until his death, his eyes were still fixed on the outside of the castle, deep in the Red Moon Forest. Its hometown. Gain 30 points of origin force. Hoo. Will gasped heavily. Fortunately, the four-armed ghost ape did not escape, otherwise it would be hell waiting for Albert Castle. Baron Leo also came to the corpse of the four-armed ghost ape, looking so lonely. Father, your arm? Will asked sadly, looking at Baron Leo's broken arm. It's just an arm, it doesn't matter. As he spoke, Baron Leo looked around. Yes. Too many people died tonight. Even Bob Knight is dead. Baron Leo just lost an arm, which is much better than a person who lost his life. Baron Leo looked at Will with complicated eyes. At least, I still have you. Chapter 16. Albert Castle Training Ground. Neeson held the sword in both hands and slashed straight at Will. Neeson's arms were covered in white light. This sword is powerful and fast. Will was enveloped by Neeson's tall body of more than 2 meters. Under Neeson's sword, Will felt as if a mountain fell from the sky and hit him. Facing Neeson's swift and fierce sword, Will had no way to dodge, so he could only take it hard. Will's hands and feet also exploded with vitality, and his limbs were covered in white light. 2 swords intersect. The force transmitted through the blade made Will's body slide back involuntarily. Neeson just swayed, and quickly chased Will. Facing Neeson's stormy attack, Will kept blocking and retreating. Will felt his arms go numb. Neeson knocked away Will's defense with 1 blow, and pierced Will's chest with another sword, fast, accurate, and ruthless, and the timing was very well grasped. Will's defense was broken, and he couldn't defend his chest in a short time. Snort! A white light erupted from Will's chest, and Will blocked Neeson's straight stab with his flesh and blood. Although it was blocked, Will's face suddenly turned pale. The attack is not over yet. Neeson rushed into Will's arms with a stride, knocking Will into the air. Neeson slashed at Will, who was unable to use his strength in mid-air, and the fierce momentum seemed to cut Will in half. Will was startled and angry. After finally blocking Neeson's attack with his sword, his body was thrown flying by Neeson's sword like a ball, and hung on the wall of the castle. Neeson squatted slightly, gathering strength. Always ready to explode with a thunderous blow. It's just that this blow was not sent out after all. Will's body slid off the wall, and Will felt that the skeleton of his whole body was scattered, and he felt weak all over. Will lay on the ground and gasped for a few breaths before recovering. "Captain Neeson, aren't you too ruthless?" Will said with a wry smile. "Your strength is too strong and your progress is too fast. I can't hold back at all, or I will lose." Neeson looked at Will with monster-like eyes. "I really couldn't help but burst out in the last 3 blows. Killing intent, I can no longer conduct actual combat training with you." After listening to Neeson's words, Will felt something. For actual combat training, it would be fine if it was conducted between 2 people with greatly different strengths. If the strength is similar, it is easy to immerse yourself in the battle. Accidentally broke out a killer move. After these few days of actual combat training with Neeson, Will has a general understanding of his own strength level. Level 5 Swordsmanship, the skills are indeed superior to others. Pure swordsmanship, no one in Albert Castle can match it. However, Will's swordsmanship did not have a crushing effect on others during the battle. First, this is probably because Neeson, who was training with Will in actual combat, is much stronger than Will himself. Second, because after the swordsmanship has been upgraded to level 5, it is no longer a pure swordsmanship skill, but more about using the environment, psychology, and props to fight. If it wasn't on the open ground like the training ground, but in a more complex environment like forests, rivers, and piles of rocks, none of the 3 Neesons would be Will's opponents. "Master, the Baron has something to ask for you." Panting, Tracy trotted from the castle to the training ground. Will took the towel handed over by the servant next to him and wiped the sweat off his face. "Is there anything father wants from me?" Will asked. "I don't know." Tracy shook her head. "The Baron has been waiting for you in the study for a long time." Will tosses the towel to the servant. Will came to the study and pushed open the heavy door. In the study room, mild sunlight streams in from the windows. Under the sunlight, Will could clearly see fine dust flying in the air. Baron Leo sat with his back to the window. The sun shone on Baron Leo's back, and Will felt a warmth from Baron Leo. This has never been done before. Baron Leo has always been a strong, do-it-yourself guy. Will looked at Baron Leo with complicated eyes, a man who was once extremely powerful, but now he looked so lonely. The battle with the 4-armed ghost ape was already 10 days ago. At that station, 7 soldiers and 1 knight were lost. And Baron Leo's right arm. After that battle, Baron Leo gradually became decadent. Once, as long as he looked at Baron Leo, he could feel the ambition surging from Baron Leo's body. Today, Baron Leo looks like an old man who wants to retire, and he no longer has the domineeringness he used to have. In just 10 days, Baron Leo's thick flaxen hair has already had sparse white hair. I'm afraid it won't be long before all of Baron Leo's hair will turn grey. Is this the end of Leo Albert? Seeing Will coming in, Baron Leo showed a gentle smile. In Will's eyes, this smile was so dazzling. Will sat down beside Baron Leo. "Father, what do you want from me?" "Will, have you been training with Neeson these days?" Baron Leo asked. "Yes." Will replied honestly. "I watched your battle yesterday. You already have the strength of a knight. I'm afraid you will be able to surpass Neeson in less than a year. In less than 3 years, even I will no longer be your opponent. The me I used to be." Baron Leo's eyes it was a little sad at first, but after looking at Will, the sadness turned into relief. "To be precise, it's a month." Will murmured in his heart. "Will, what are you going to do in the future?" Baron Leo's style changed, and his tone turned sharp. Before Will could answer, Baron Leo said again, "Your talent and strength are far superior to mine. I know that little Patriarch Albert will not be able to trap you or satisfy you. Your future is destined to be the sea of stars." Baron Leo looked at Will with relief and pride, but also with worry. "Father, are you going to stop me?" Will raised his eyes. Will had previously made a decision that when his strength reached the level of a knight, he would leave the territory and go on an adventure tour. Now Will's decision has not changed, but has changed to waiting for the strength to reach the great night before going on an adventure tour. This period of time can range from 3 months to half a year. I know, because you, me, Belle, and Lean are all the same people. Baron Leo's eyes were deep. Your mother also knew, so until the end, Delia didn't resent me. Belle, Will's eldest brother. Lean, Will's second brother. Big brother Belle, who aspires to be an adventurer, has been away from home for 10 years and has not heard from him. Everyone knows that big brother Belle is dead. The second brother Lean aspires to imitate Baron Leo and enter the army to sharpen himself. It's a pity that he died in the battle with the orcs, and he was unknown, and he didn't even get a martyr medal. Will's mother, Delia, was already weak, but because she couldn't bear the blow of the death of her 2 sons, she was depressed and died of a serious illness. She died when Will was 10 years old. Delia, Will's favorite person. Will admitted in his heart, the only relative in this world. It's a pity that no matter how much Will cries and prays, Delia's life cannot be saved. I only have your son left, I can't lose you again, and Delia will not want you to end up like 2 brothers. In Baron Leo's heart, only the children born to Delia are his true love. Children. Don't compare me to them. Will said in a deep voice. It was because of those 2 trashes that Delia died. Yes, you are much stronger than your 2 elder brothers. Baron Leo nodded in agreement, but are you sure? The dangers of this world are far beyond your knowledge. The 4-armed ghost ape is powerful, right? But that's just the edge of that unknown world. Will fell silent. Will was skeptical about the existence of creatures like the 4-armed ghost ape. Because if the 4-armed ghost ape exists, what about the legends that are at the same level as the 4-armed ghost ape, or on top of the 4-armed ghost ape? Are those legends real? If so, that human being is really too small. Like dust. I won't change my mind. Even so, Will's determination will not waver. I know. Baron Leo looked at Will seriously, so, let's get married. Hey? Will's eyes widened in surprise. Marry and have children, and leave descendants for the family. Baron Leo repeated, as long as you leave descendants and leave heirs for the Albert family, you can do whatever you want. Will left the study in a daze. Will was only 15. Will actually let him marry and have children? How can a child beget a child? Come to think of it, this is normal. In this world, it is normal to get married at the age of 14 or 15, and it is not uncommon for people to marry at the age of 11 or 12. Marriage at 18 is considered late marriage and late childbearing. On the way back to the bedroom, Nicken met him. Nicken is dressed in leather armor and is full of energy. Master Will, I'm here to say goodbye to you. Nicken said. Will already knew about Nicken. In the battle of the 4-armed ghost ape, the Albert family lost a knight. It is impossible for a knight leader to be left alone. But within a short period of time, no new knights could be found willing to serve the Albert family. Moreover, a knight is not necessarily required to lead a knight leader. Nicken is also one of the best among the quasi-knights. He is talented, hard-working, and the son of Baron Leo, so it is appropriate to rule a knight caller. Work hard and don't ruin the reputation of the Albert family. Will patted Nicken on the shoulder and encouraged him. Yes. Nicken responded loudly. Under the castle, there are already 3 carriages. Beside the carriage, a beautiful-looking middle-aged woman was having an intimate conversation with Nicken, who was Nicken's mother and Baron Leo's mistress. Saya. This time going to the territory, Nicken's mother, Saya also went with her. After all, Saya is already old, her appearance has declined a lot, and she has long lost Baron Leo's favor. If she hadn't given birth to a good son, Nicken, Saya would have been neglected by Baron Leo long ago, and reduced to a slightly better position than ordinary servants. Nicken packed up and loaded the servants and supplies. 3 carriages walked out of the castle, carrying Nicken and Saya, and drove towards the distance. Chapter 17. The next morning, Will woke up in bed. A white arm of jade lotus root rests on Will's chest, under the platinum hair. Betty smiles sweetly. Will gently pushed Betty's arm away. After getting up and getting dressed, after washing, he came to the study. Today, it's time to answer. Will pushed the door open and went in. Baron Leo had been waiting for a long time. There is nothing to hesitate. As soon as Will sat down, he immediately said the answer he got after thinking hard all night. Baron Leo had expected Will to answer like this, and Baron Leo handed Will a stack of papers. On it, there is the information of the marriage partner. Will flipped through it casually first, and found that the girls above were all from the Campere family, that is, the Campere family of his mother Delia. Will is an aristocrat, even though he is only the son of a small baron, but to be worthy of Will, he must also be a nobleman. It is already a great achievement to be able to marry a woman from the Viscount Campere family. There are still several places for Will to choose. If other baron families get this kind of treatment, I'm afraid they will wake up with laughter. And all of this stems from Will's mother, Delia Kemple. Because he would go to Moonfall City every year and live in the Campere family for a few days, Will is still very familiar with the younger generation of the Campere family. Although there are many Kemper families, there are hundreds of people, but there are only a few girls who are suitable to marry Will. Will looks at the first girl. Vian Kemple. This girl, Will knew, was familiar. Vane Kemper was 2 years older than Will, with a fiery temper and a curvy figure. Back then, Will used his youth as a shield to harass Wei Yin a lot, lift up his skirt, peek at the shower, and touch his body accidentally. While having fun, he was often beaten by Wei Yin. Will couldn't help but smile when he thought of the funny things in his childhood. This guy, you haven't married yet? Back then, Will often mocked Wei Yin, saying that no man would want her personality. Unexpectedly, one day, Wei Yin would appear on Will's marriage partner. However, although Wei Yin has an angel face and a devil figure, the two are too familiar, and Wei Yin's boyish personality is not a good candidate for Will's wife. Will flipped to the second page. Look at the two names on the paper, and the two similar faces. Good guy, you packed it. Will shook his head speechlessly. Dickie Campbell, Dina Campbell, a pair of twins, they have similar personalities, similar faces, and even very similar hobbies. But Will never recognized anyone. Because of boobs. Dickie, although young, has breasts as big as apples. It's been a year, and I'm afraid it has grown amazingly again. Dina is the same age as Digi, but her chest development is very different from Digi's. It is a pity that she is still in her teens, but her chest is still the same as a 304 stainless steel plate. If the two are separated, their looks can only be considered excellent, only slightly better than Tracy. But when the two are together, even the gorgeous Wei Yin is a bit inferior. Really plan to marry me together? To be honest, Will was moved. If there are no good candidates in the future, they are not bad. Although unlikely. In fact, Will already had a candidate in mind. There's no need to read any further, the person Will wants isn't on this list. Will put down the list in his hand, and smiled at Baron Leo. Father, is there someone missing here? Baron Leo looked at Will bitterly. Will. What happened? Will's expression changed. What happened to Edith? Edith Kemple, the daughter of Will's third uncle, is the same age as Will. Will and Edith are childhood sweethearts, and their relationship has been very good since childhood. Whether it was Baron Leo or the members of the Campere family, they all acquiesced in their hearts, and Will and Edith married in the future, and the two were also happy to do so. Will, calm down, things are not what you think. Baron Leo saw the excitement in Will's heart. Edith entered the Lorelei Union Academy half a year ago. Will's pupils shrank when he heard the name Lorelei Union Academy. Will had heard the name many times, but no one around knew exactly what the academy taught, where, or what it was for. I have never heard of anyone graduating from this academy. The Loria Alliance Academy is a mysterious academy. It is rumored that all the students who enter this academy seem to evaporate and disappear in this world. In this world, humans mainly have 3 countries. They are the Cairo Empire, the Litoya Empire, and the Amona Empire. It is rumored that the Loria Union Academy is jointly organized by the 3 countries, and the name is composed of 1 character for each of the 3 countries. Father, how much do you know about the Raleigh Union Academy? Will asked. I only recently found out that this academy really exists. Baron Leo smiled wryly. Edith actually entered this academy? In front of Will, the figure of Edith Meoman emerged. Will's feelings for Edith, is it love? Probably not. But Will still felt a pain in his heart. If the rumors about the Loria Union Academy were true, he might never see Edith again. I didn't expect that the farewell a year ago would be forever. After the 4-armed ghost ape, did you go to the Loria Union Academy? These legendary things popped up one after another, just to fight against me? Will was annoyed. Will. Baron Leo didn't know how to comfort Will. Among these few people, there should be someone you want. People? Whether it is Wien, or Digi and Dina, whichever one is an excellent choice. Only. Just Dicky and Dina. Will didn't want to read any more. Based on Will's familiarity with Kemper's younger generation, the twins Dicky and Dina are already the best choice. If it was the past, Will would be absolutely excited to have twins like Dicky and Dina. But now Will wasn't in the mood. Are you taking a look? Maybe it will surprise you. Baron Leo persuaded. Facing Baron Leo's repeated persuasion, Will picked up the list in doubt. Baron Leo should know everything about the Kemper family and Will. Now that there is no Edith, the DG Dina twins should be the best candidates, so why does Baron Leo keep persuading them again and again? Swipe, swipe, Will casually glanced at the names and turned over. Didn't look closely at all. Because Will knew all these people. But when it turned to the last one, Will froze. I didn't expect this person to appear on this list. The appearance of Wei Yan earlier really surprised Will, but it was only the surprise of this guy is not married yet. Until this person shows up. Naya Kemper. Naya is also the third uncle's daughter and Edith's younger sister. Naya and Edith have some similarities, but they are very different, and their personalities are also very different. Edith is confident, proud, lively, and full of strength, which is synonymous with youth. Naya, weak in body, introverted, pure and kind-hearted. If it is said, in the Kemper family, who is Will's favorite person, there is no doubt that it is Naya, and Edith also ranks behind Naya. It's just that Will's liking for Naya is not love at all. Why does Naya appear here? Will was puzzled. I have always regarded Naya as my younger sister. I never thought that Naya would become my wife. In Will's mind, the scene of Naya sweetly calling Will brother appeared. The figure of Naya dancing in the flower field emerged. The scene of Naya running into his arms emerges. Seeing that Nayana and Dilia have 70% similar faces and almost identical personalities. Will slapped the list back on the table. What do you think of Naya? Don't you know my feelings for Naya? Will closed his eyes. Naya is so innocent, so cute, and so kind. Will is willing to give Naya the most beautiful things in the world, and is willing to let Naya keep a beautiful and innocent smile forever. Naya is synonymous with beauty in Will's heart. He has always regarded Naya as his favorite sister. And now, Will was actually asked to defile Naya. Let Naya enter the dirty world of grown-ups. Let Naya fall into his arms? Who suggested it? Unforgivable. How could it be possible to do it? Who added Naya to the marriage list with what kind of psychology? Naya will marry someone sooner or later. Leo reminded Verdeo. So what? Then you took Naya yourself, wouldn't it be great? Baron Leo said speechlessly. Impossible. Even if I jump out of the window to die and die outside, I will never touch Naya, and I will never marry Naya. If Naya wasn't Edith's sister. If only his relationship with Edith hadn't been like that. He might think about it. Edith, who has always been regarded as a wife candidate, just left and married someone else's sister? He can't do this kind of thing. Will draws one from the list. I think Dicky and Dina are good. If there's no problem, it's just the two of them. After speaking, Will walked out of the study. I still have to do morning exercises, excuse me. 3 days later, we will go to Moonfall City to propose marriage. Whenever you change your mind, please come to me anytime. Baron Leo shouted behind Will. Will came to the training ground. On the training ground, the youth team members have already started their morning exercises. Only one of them was missing. Nick in. Master. Master Will. Hi, Master. The team members who were training saluted Will one after another. Before, people just respected Will for who he was. After the four-armed ghost ape battle and knowing that Will killed the four-armed ghost ape with his own hands, people's attitudes towards Will have changed. In this world, strength is fundamental. Is Captain Neeson there? Will asked. Captain Neeson set off early in the morning to negotiate with the Evelyn family. A team member replied. After the four-armed ghost ape battle, the Albert family lost a knight, and their strength dropped drastically. Under normal circumstances, the Evelyn family would definitely take the opportunity to invade. It's just that the Evelyn family also lost a knight, 30 elite soldiers, and the family heir. The loss is much greater than that of the Albert family. Both parties need to recuperate. Negotiation is the best option for both parties. Will wandered around the training ground a few times, feeling irritable, and returned to the bedroom. In the bedroom, Betty was sitting on a chair, combing her hair, revealing her long and beautiful neck like a swan. Will rushed up with a stride, hugged Betty, and walked to the bed. In Betty's coquettish voice, Will stripped Betty and threw her on the bed. Looking at Betty's body as white as snow lying on the bed, he didn't jump straight up as usual. For some reason, he felt extremely irritable. Naya's face kept flashing in his mind. What exactly is this sore feeling? How should I choose? Chapter 18. 17 carriages pulling goods set off from Albert Castle and headed for Moonfall City. 2 days later, they came to a majestic and simple city wall. Moonfall City has arrived. Entering the castle, the convoy was divided into 2 parts. Part of it sells goods and buys daily necessities. The other part is to go to the castle of the Campere family. 3 carriages drove towards Campere Castle on the bustling street. The prosperity of Moonfall City is far beyond that of Lent Town where the Albert family is located. It was another street day, and the streets were crowded with people, and the carriage in which Will was riding slowly moved forward amidst the crowds. If it was in the town of Lent, the groom would have swung the whip in his hand and opened up everyone who was in the way. But this is Moonfall City. Didn't see the much more luxurious and exquisite carriage next to it, so he could only move forward slowly. Will opened the curtain, and the lively street scene came into view. Women and children, hawking and setting up stalls, chopping vegetables and bargaining prices, the streets are extremely lively. Brother, brother, that candy looks so good. Inside the carriage, Emma cried excitedly while holding Will's arm. Brother, brother, what is on that stall, brother, isn't that person afraid of being bitten by a snake, brother? Emma thought about 100,000 reasons, and kept asking Will various questions. Will patiently explained to Emma first. Sometimes the groom will get out of the car to buy something Emma is interested in. Today, Will is wearing a black tuxedo, thin and close-fitting, handmade, and of fine fabric. It's just that Will is used to wearing loose clothes. Will feels very uncomfortable wearing this kind of dress that affects combat and sports. And now it's early spring, the weather is still a bit cold, and the black tuxedo on her body is a little thin. Will tightened his collar, helplessly looking at Emma who was as excited as a little swan. Emma also wore a white lace dress today, with a delicate lily hair accessory on her head, and she was dressed like a little princess. Her bare arms were red from the cold, but Emma didn't seem to notice. The convoy continues to move forward in the flow of people. The street gradually became deserted, and most of the people who appeared around were wearing exquisite clothes. Will opened the curtain, and a tall steeple appeared in front of Will. The city lord's mansion is almost here. Just as Will finished thinking, the carriage stopped. The curtain was pulled back by the servant, and Will took Emma's hand and got out of the carriage. In front of the carriage, Baron Leo was talking to a robust middle-aged man in armor. Will pulled Emma forward. Emma held the hem of her skirt with both hands, and gave a noble salute. Hello, Uncle Haywood. Haywood, the team leader responsible for the security of the city lord's mansion. Knight strength. Every time he sees Haywood, Will sighs. In Lent Town, even Baron Leo respected a man with the strength of a knight. When he arrived at Moonfall City, he was just a small team leader who guarded the gate. Miss Emma, I haven't seen you for a year, and you are even more beautiful and lovely. Haywood invited the 3 of Will to sit in the prepared carriage. The carriage and coachman in which Will came will be received. On the way to the city lord's mansion, the carriage passed through watchtowers. There will be a sentry tower every few hundred meters, which is heavily guarded. Looking out the window, Emma opened her mouth in surprise. Brother, when will we have such a big castle? Compared with the Campere family's city lord's mansion, Albert Castle is like a dirt bag. Will gently stroked Emma's little head, and said with a smile, yes, brother will build you a castle 10 times bigger than this one in the future. Really? I like my brother the most. Emma smiled innocently. Leo, Will, Emma, I haven't seen you in a year, ha ha ha. A burst of hearty laughter came from outside. As soon as Will stepped out of the carriage, he was hugged by a tall figure. After letting go of Will, the visitor reached out to Emma. No! Emma screamed and hid behind Will. Emma was still held by the owner of the arm. Emma was ravaged by the owner of the arm, and kept piercing Emma's face with his beard, causing Emma to keep hitting him with small fists. The other party was still not satisfied, and threw Emma up high. Emma waved and screamed in the air, but the other party laughed loudly in return. Uncle Henry, don't scare Emma. Will reminded. The Lord of Moonfall City, the head of the Campere family, the Viscount, the father of Will's mother Delia, and the grandfather of Will, Chapman Kemper. Viscount Chapman has 7 children. Henry Kemper was 6th. Viscount Chapman's first 6 were sons, and Will's mother, Delia, was the last and only daughter. Delia has always been the jewel in Chapman's palm, the darling of 6 older brothers. Delia is the princess of Moonfall City, the dream goddess of all men. He ended up falling in love with Baron Leo. Delia's choice surprised everyone. Therefore, Baron Leo's popularity in the Campere family is extremely poor, and Uncle Henry has never looked at Baron Leo since his appearance. In this regard, Baron Leo is self-aware and not angry. Under Henry's leadership, the 3 of Will walked into the Santos mansion. Come to the lobby. There have long been countless well-dressed nobles drinking and dancing there, and holding parties. Everyone present has a prominent identity. It's not something that a little baron like Leo can afford. The second brother Carlo inherited the title today, and these are the people who came to congratulate him. Henry explained. Master Viscount Chapman? Baron Leo's expression changed. The old man is fine. With that said, Henry greeted Carlo. Uncle Carlo is an elegant gentleman with short black hair and blue eyes. Will, Emma, you are here. Viscount Carlo kissed Will and Emma respectively. Mr. Chapman was still thinking of your names yesterday. I didn't expect you to arrive today. You first go see the old man. Will was not good at this kind of hypocritical banquet, so he wished he could get away as soon as possible. After hearing Viscount Carlo's words, Will nodded immediately. Pulling reluctantly Emma, led by a maid, she walked towards Mr. Chapman's residence. Baron Leo was left standing alone at the banquet. Viscount Carlo and Uncle Henry ignored Baron Leo. Baron Leo didn't leave or stay, and stood there in embarrassment for a while. Leaving the lively banquet hall, led by the maid, walked for half an hour and turned 7 or 8 corners. Came to a villa in a secluded path. There is a rockery and a clear lake in front of the villa. In the lake, several bright and beautiful fish swim freely in the water. Emma stared blankly at the fish in the lake, and suddenly took Will's arm and said, "Brother, the fish are so beautiful, they must be delicious." Will pinched Emma's nose speechlessly. "Why do you want to eat all day long?" "Haha, Emma is still so cute." A hearty old man came over. "Emma is also right. This fish looks so good looking and eats so finely. It must taste very good." "Grandpa Chapman." Will immediately saluted respectfully. Emma immediately threw herself into the arms of old man Chapman. "Grandpa, you don't know, Uncle Henry is too hateful." Emma immediately sued Chapman about Henry. Listening to Emma's words, Mr. Chapman nodded, "I see." The next second, Mr. Chapman also picked up Emma and threw Emma high. Emma's screams were replaced by Mr. Chapman's hearty laughter. As soon as she fell to the ground, Emma immediately hid behind Will, gritted her teeth and glared at Chapman. Emma didn't expect that Chapman, who had always loved her, was such a person. Chapman looked at Emma in embarrassment, but he didn't expect that his hand itched for a while, which actually made Emma hate it. "Emma, Grandpa has candy here, come here and I'll give you some candy." Chapman seduced Emma. Emma, who had already eaten a lot of candy on the way here, was unmoved. "Jenny, get a fish for Emma to eat." Chapman called the maid and ordered. "Master Chapman, this is a glacier." The maid hesitated to speak. "Forward?" Chapman glanced at the maid, who trembled, immediately swallowed the next words, and trotted to get the fishing tools. "Emma, come and have a look, which fish do you want to eat?" Chapman beckoned to Emma kindly. Emma couldn't help running over, pointing her tender fingers in the lake. This one, no, it should be this one is bigger." Will couldn't help but touch his forehead. Chapman too doted on Ma. The fish in this lake is the famous glacier crystal dragon carp. It goes without saying that the appearance is extremely beautiful, but the taste. No one is stupid enough to eat the glacier crystal dragon carp. Each glacier crystal dragon carp is worth thousands of gold coins. The annual income of the Albert family is only a few hundred gold coins. Moreover, the glacier crystal dragon carp grows in an extremely harsh environment, and the water temperature must be between 3 and 10 degrees. The province of Doria is located in the south. Although it snows every year, it can be 30 to 40 degrees when it is hot. Under this environmental water temperature, it is impossible to feed the glacier crystal dragon carp. Unless you change the ice water at any time. If you look closely, you will find fist-sized ice cubes on the bottom of the lake. In Albert Castle, even Will was extremely cautious about the use of ice. Every year in midsummer, being able to drink a glass of iced sour plum soup is quite a luxury for Will. But in Moonfall City, in the palace of the Campere family, fish were raised with precious ice cubes. Only Will couldn't help swallowing. How delicious is the glacier crystal dragon carp! Will had the honor to eat it once. It was stolen by Will and Edith together. It's a pity that it's just roasted hastily, without any seasoning, and the taste is just a little more delicious than ordinary fish, and there is no difference in taste. Afterwards, Will and Edith were beaten to death. The two were locked in a dark room for 3 days by the angry Mr. Chapman, but they sneaked out in less than half a day. Thinking about it, Will couldn't help laughing. The next moment, Will's smile disappeared. Edith was gone. The girls who used to be happy and play together went to a college called Loria, and I am afraid that they will never see each other in this life. Chapter 19. The Glacier Crystal Dragon Carp worth 1,000 gold coins is really delicious. Emma snuggled into the arms of Old Man Chapman. Grandpa was long and Grandpa was short. They were very close, completely forgetting what Old Man Chapman did just now. While talking, 2 servants brought a box. Under Mr. Chapman's approving gaze, Emma excitedly opened the box. In the box, there are 3 sets of gorgeous princess dresses. There is also a small box containing a delicate and beautiful crystal necklace, which is extremely charming. Emma hugged the clothes and the necklace, and the smile on her face bloomed like a flower. I went to play with Penny and the others. Emma couldn't wait to show off to her friends. Emma, I haven't thanked Grandpa Chapman yet. Will said quickly. It's just that Emma has already run away. This little girl. Will shook his head helplessly. Children, I can understand. Mr. Chapman took the long sword handed by the servant. I heard that you have become a quasi-knight. This is a gift from me. Will took the long sword and pulled it out. The blade was cold. With a single swipe, a pillar was instantly broken into 2 pieces. Good sword. Will sincerely admired. Baron Leo's great sword forged from refined steel is already excellent. But in front of this sword, farts are nothing. This is a long sword made of Varian steel. A sword that is worth a baronial title. It was your second Uncle Carlo's sword before. Mr. Chapman explained. Will couldn't help but danced a few more sword flowers, and a sandalwood table was instantly shattered into pieces. You prodigal son, try your sword and go outside for an interview. Do you want to tear down my house? Chapman laughed and drove Will out of the room. I agree with your marriage, talk to your fiancé, don't be like that bastard Leo. With that, Chapman went back to his room to rest with the help of his servant. Will strapped his sword to his belt. Take the gift you brought to the back garden. If nothing else, she should be there. In the garden, 100 flowers are blooming. A smaller figure was wearing a straw hat, holding a water bottle with both hands carefully, watering the flowers one by one. A head of curly black hair was casually scattered behind her, and her blue pupils shone with innocence. Water, water, drink more water, grow up quickly. Water, water, swaying in the wind. Water, water, the sun is blooming. The little girl sang happily. Will smiled and walked over to the little girl. Naya, long time no see, do you miss me? As he spoke, Wilhelm opened his arms towards Naya. Wow! Naya jumped in place, dropped the kettle and ran away. Ouch! On the way, I fell and rolled a few times among the flowers. Clothes, hair and body are all covered with flower flakes. Are you okay? Will carefully helped Naya up, and patted off the petals and dirt off Naya's body. No, bad guy. Naya slapped Will's hand off, and continued to flee under Will's hurt expression. Helpless, Will could only take out the doll behind him. Come and take a look, it's a cute bear doll. Will took out a 1-meter-high fluffy cute doll, which was made by Will himself. Naya's eyes lit up, and she quickly ran to Will and snatched the doll. Then, escaped. Opened. Up. Will touched his nose and said aggrievedly, did I do something? Why did Naya avoid me? A bell-like clear laughter came. A slender figure stood beside the flower field. Tall figure, slender legs, slender waist, long black hair in a high ponytail, revealing a seductive white neck. Orpheus, do you know what's going on? Will asked quickly. Of course. Ophelia smiled. Then tell me quickly. Will looked at Offie pleadingly. Okay, but you have to promise me one condition. Jiao smiled. Naya's personal maid. Unlike Will's maid Trish, Afi is a nobleman herself. Just like someone would send his son to be a servant knight to the son of a nobleman. Some minor nobles will send their daughters to the noble ladies as maids. They can learn etiquette together with the ladies, expand their contacts, and if they are lucky, they can lose a rich husband. Afi is the daughter of a merchant in Moonset City. Although he just donated a knight title with money, his status is far lower than the baron title of the Will family. It is the kind that is looked down upon by those families who have obtained knight titles based on their strength. But the title does not mean rich, the Afi family is much richer than the Will family. For Afi, Will dare not take it lightly. Is it teaching swordsmanship again? When Edith was still there, Will regarded Naya as his future aunt and younger sister, and he favored and fawned on her in all kinds of ways. The maid by Naya's side, will naturally not let her go. But Afi himself was extremely proud. No matter how courteous Will is unmoved. Until one day, Will notices that Afi is watching the knights in training. At first, Will thought that there were people among the knights whom Afi admired. After all, the status of each of the knights of the Camper family is no less than that of Baron Leo, and he is the daughter of a merchant, Afi, who can only be admired. Later, Will felt something was wrong. Because Will noticed that Afi's hand was also waving continuously. Although the movement was very subtle, Will could still see that it was the swordsmanship that the knights were practicing. As a result, Will paid for teaching Afi swordsmanship. Let Afi speak kind words of him in Naya's ear, and let Afi tell him what's going on around Naya. If you are willing to stay with me for a day today, I can tell you a big news. Afi said mysteriously. What news? Will asked. You agreed? Hurry up. Afi's personality was cold, and even Afi thought it was big news, so it must be unusual. 2 days ago, someone proposed marriage to Mr. Chapman, Afi said. What happened to the marriage proposal? The Camper family is a big family, with many younger generations in the family. Regardless of appearance or family background, the people in the Camper family are all first class, and it is normal for many people to propose marriage. What if the object of marriage proposal is Miss Naya? Af carefully observed Will's reaction. Who is it? Will's eyes turned cold. Naya is Will's reverse scale. If not forced to. Will definitely doesn't want to marry Naya. It's not that Will doesn't like Naya, but that he doesn't want to tarnish Naya, anyone, including Will himself. It seems to be Vadenburin, a knight in your territory, right? Afi smiled mockingly, a knight without a title, like marrying Miss Naya? Don't even look at yourself. It's okay if you don't agree? Will heaved a sigh of relief. Valdenburin had a very fine son of 14, named Philly. Philly's talent is comparable to that of Nikan. If there is no accident, it will not be a big problem to become a knight in the future. A year ago, Knight Vaden proposed marriage to Baron Leo. At that time, Baron Leo rejected Knight Vaden's proposal because Emma was still too young. Unexpectedly, the Wali knight actually came to the Camper family to propose marriage. The target is still Naya. Master Will, just now you promised me to accompany me to practice swords for a day. Afi looked at Will vigilantly, worried that Will would go back on his word. It's too late for me to be happy to have the opportunity to practice sword with such a beautiful girl. How could I regret it? Will kept looking around. Will was very disappointed to find no sign of Naya. Time flies. It was dark. Will and Afi come out of the room. Afi had rosy cheeks and disheveled clothes. Will's face was pale, bent over, and seemed a little unsteady. Will handed the 3 books to Af. This is the fairy tale I collected, please pass it to Naya for me. Afi took the book and looked at Will with resentful eyes. It's just my first time, don't you have any expression? Afi wondered if her decision was right. Af is a beautiful and proud maiden. From childhood to adulthood, beside Afi, the only boy who can be seen by Afi is Will. From the day Will taught Afi how to practice swordsmanship, Afi has made a promise to Will. It's just that Afi is a very sensible person, knowing that Will may also like her, but he will never marry her. Whether it's Edith or Wian or other girls, Will's women, they can only be found in the Camper family. Af would never wrong herself to be Will's mistress. Afi's family would not be willing either. Unexpectedly, Will chose Naya in the end. Things are very different. As Naya's personal maid, Af married along with her, and her status was unmatched by ordinary mistresses. As long as Naya did not lose her power, Uff would not fail. Offie had the idea of seducing Will. Action teases Will. So, the two practiced and practiced the sword on the bed. Fortunately, Will's sword skills are not bad, and he was not defeated by Offie. When the two were about to say goodbye, Will suddenly remembered something. Why did Naya run away from me? Fooling around with Offie, Will almost forgot the business. Offie looked at Will coldly, feeling resentful in her heart. After a long time, Offie sighed. You're an enemy. Offie took out a comic book from his clothes. Nyo, after reading this, Naya alienated you. What kind of broken book? How dare you destroy my relationship with Naya? Will snatched the comic book angrily. Crash clatter. Opening the comic book and looking at the contents inside, Will was stunned. You. Will's body was trembling. How dare you show Naya this kind of book? Which bastard came up with the idea? I will kill him. Will's veins were throbbing and his body was shaking with rage. I used to raise Naya like a little princess, like an ignorant little girl. Isn't she going to marry you? Now that I'm a wife, I can't be ignorant of everything, right? Uff said speechlessly. This, also. The legendary room secretary? Understanding is one thing. You can't show Naya this kind of book anymore, and you can't let Naya get in touch with this kind of knowledge anymore. Do you understand? Offie gave Will a blank look. Remember, Will wasn't careful when he talked to her before? When begging her, when did you not show a flattering smile? Ready for a gift? Unexpectedly, after getting her body, he immediately turned his face and denied anyone. Chapter 20. Tisk tisk, I didn't expect you to be able to conquer that woman. A lewd voice sounded beside Will. A chubby fat man with a bulging belly came to Will's side. It's Peel, long time no see. Will turned and looked at Peel. Peel was in a tuxedo and smelled of alcohol. Beside Pierre was a beautiful and disheveled noble lady. If Will remembered correctly, this young lady should be the wife of a certain nobleman. Don't spoil Naya's garden. Will signaled Peel to leave here with his eyes. Peel is the only son of Will's deceased uncle, a playboy. If he is not too fat, he can be regarded as a handsome guy. Relying on his family background and money, Peel kept changing women around him. He wanted to take Will out for a while and teach Will what a real aristocratic life is. Will was intrigued. But after Peel was beaten up by Edith, Peel's attitude towards Will changed drastically, and he rarely appeared in Will's sight. This time Edith wasn't there, and Peel popped out again. Pierre walked away from his female companion, put his arms around Will's shoulders, and said kindly, Hey, Will, there is a fun place to go tonight, do you want to go? As he spoke, Peel winked at Will wretchedly. Forget it. Will clapped Peel's hand away. I came here to convey a message to you with good intentions, and it hurts my heart to be so cold. Pierre clutched his chest, acting exaggeratedly. Tell me, what's the matter? Seeing Peel's disgusted appearance, Will couldn't help kicking him away. Peel was hit by Will's ass, and his body bounced up. One or two of you, why do you like to use violence so much? Pierre hugged his butt in depression. Your father, Leo, asked me to send you a message. There is an urgent matter at home. He went back first and asked you to stay here. 2 days. Baron Leo went back first. Will wasn't surprised by this. With Baron Leo's embarrassing treatment in the Camper family, it is normal to find a reason to leave. Are you really not interested? Peel put his hand up again. There is an auction house tonight, and the things there are very interesting. Auction? How interesting? Will also became interested. Peel carefully looked around, and then whispered in Will's ear, tonight's underground auction, there are many precious and rare items, many of which cannot be obtained through normal channels. Will thought about it, but decided not to go. I don't have any money, so forget it. It's unimaginable for rich people to live without money. Even if you don't have money, it's good to go and have a look. Peel's voice became strange, and, who said you have no money? That little girl Naya has so much money. Will glanced coldly at Peel. Pierre shrank his head, but continued to say, Naya is favored in the family, and she doesn't spend any money. Before Edith left, she gave all of her things to Naya. Now Naya is worthy of the name. Little rich woman. Don't let me hear such words again. Pierre had already touched Will's reverse scale. Pierre was still unwilling to give up. Naya's money, isn't it your money? Besides, I heard that last time there was a knight's breathing method that can be cultivated to a paladin, and it sold for 30,000 gold coins. Paladin breathing method? Will's breathing was rapid. Legend has it that above the great knights, there is a realm called Holy Knights. Seeing that Will's heart was moved, Pierre immediately added fuel and jealousy. I heard that there are also auctions for items that can enhance your strength. You are stronger and can protect Naya better, can't you? Will felt that what Peel said did make sense. It was useless to keep the money with Naya, and Naya didn't spend any money. It's better to let Will use it to strengthen his strength. With strength, are you afraid of running out of money? At that time, I will repay Naya 1,000 times. If there is nothing you want in the auction house, just return the money to Naya without spending any money. Pierre's words finally made Will make up his mind. Naya is avoiding me recently, I can't guarantee that Naya will give me money. Will didn't know what to do. In the end, Naya was still unwilling to see Will. However, Naya still took out 10,000 gold coins and asked if to give Will. Will was holding a gold card with 10,000 gold coins, his body trembling. The Albert family's territory for a year is only a few hundred gold coins. 10,000 gold coins, sold the Albert family, I don't know if I can make up that much money. Afi took out a gold card with 10,000 gold coins, this money is for you, don't spend it indiscriminately. As he said that, Afi glanced at Pierre coldly, and reminded Will, don't get too close to Pierre. Peel didn't care when he heard what Afi said. As soon as Afi left, Peel immediately came up to him. His eyes turned numbly on the 2 gold cards in Will's hand. Will put away the gold card, lead the way. Will and Pierre left the Santos mansion in a carriage. The night in Uoluo City was extremely lively. It is comparable to the busy city in the previous life, especially Hwaja. When passing by Flower Street, there are women with heavy makeup at the door to welcome customers. When Pierre's carriage passed by, several women surrounded him and pulled Pierre to get off the carriage. It was obvious that Pierre was a regular customer here. After Will snorted a few times, Pierre reluctantly dismissed the girls. The carriage arrived at its destination. At the entrance of the tall building, dozens of expensive carriages were parked. On the carriage, nobles in gorgeous clothes got off one by one, and the faces of the nobles who got off the carriage all wore silver-white masks. After Will's carriage arrived, a well-dressed attendant was already waiting outside. The attendant handed over 2 silver-white masks. Wearing a mask, he walked into the auction house under the leadership of his attendants. At the entrance of the auction house, 2 scantily clad girls greeted Will and embraced Will and Peel's arms respectively. The seductive smell of perfume wafted into Will's nostrils, teasing Will's heart. If he hadn't vented his anger once today, his body might not be able to hold it anymore. But he came to the auction to buy something. Not here to play. Besides, I felt ashamed to bring Naya's money to the auction tonight. If he still used Naya's money to pick up girls, wouldn't he be a scumbag? Thinking of this, he quietly distanced himself from the woman beside him. It's clearly not the first time for Peel. Pierre skillfully took out a black card, and the gorgeous girl's eyes lit up when she saw the black card. Immediately said in a coquettish voice, 2 distinguished guests, this way please. The VIP room has a table and 2 leather sofas, and the layout is very simple. Surprisingly, the windows are actually made of transparent glass. This window is made of crystal, and you can clearly overlook the entire auction site from here. Pierre pointed to a rope and said, this is a rattle. When you want to make a quotation, you can shake it. This is a quotation card. With that said, Peel picked up 2 more binoculars from the table. With these 2, we can see more clearly than the people sitting in the first row of the auction. The distance between the auction display stand and the first row of seats is still a bit far. And it may be to prevent someone from rushing to the display stand to interfere with the auction, so there are iron bars between the display stand and the seats. The auction will be held at 7 o'clock, now at 6:30, we can watch the performance. Peel looked at the auction display stand with drooling. On the display stand, 13 glamorous girls with devil figures and angel faces danced on it. The action is intense and seductive. Sometimes because the action is too intense, the clothes will fall off, causing countless whistles. Finding that Will was unmoved, Peel explained, when the auction will be held, different girls will take each auction item to the display stand. If you count, there are 13 girls in total, which means that there are 13 auction items in total. Taste. With that, Peel whistled again. Da-da-da. Outside the door, there was a knock on the door. Two glamorous girls walked in with fruit and wine. When the girl came in, she closed the door smoothly, and all the noisy voices were blocked outside the door. Unexpectedly, the sound insulation effect of the VIP room is also excellent. Tisk tisk, I didn't expect you to choose Naya. Pierre said to Will with a puzzled face while drinking fine wine under the service of the beauty. Do you have any opinion on Naya? Will said with a gloomy tone and a bad face. Naya is Will's favorite woman. You can scold him, insult him, and hate him, but Naya is absolutely inviolable, and Naya is his only antagonist. No, no, I definitely didn't mean that. Peel, who knew Will very well, waved his hand quickly and said. Oh? Will listened to Peel's explanation. Look, isn't there a lot of family members for you to choose from? Today, when the most perfect Edith is not around, there are twins Dicky and Dina, and Wei Yin with a hot body, A&D. Peel talked about the beauties in the family one by one, and he could feel a deep pride in his tone. Every one of them is an excellent choice, especially Dicky and Dina. The family actually allowed Ni to take them both at once, task tisk. Pierre sighed. Exactly what Peel said. In terms of his marriage contract, the Campere family was extremely tolerant of him. A woman of the right age in the Campere family, he can choose whoever he wants. Although Naya is also very good, when she grows up, she will definitely not lose to Edith's big beauty, but now? And I think her figure is also. I thought you and I were like-minded people. Said as he spoke, Peel showed a wretched smile. Naya is different, that's all. Will said, taking a sip of his wine. Do you want to know how Wei Yin behaved when she knew she was on your marriage list? Noticing Will's unfriendly gaze, Pierre changed the subject abruptly. Pierre took a sip of his wine and said to Will, did you know? After that guy Wei Yin knew he was going to marry you, he clamored that if you dare to choose her, he would beat you to death. It's very her style, Will laughed. Will and Wei Yin are too familiar, and the relationship between her and Wei Yin is like two buddies. The same is true for Lai Wei Yin. Will felt sick at the thought of marrying Wei Yin and spending the rest of his life together. Fall in love with your old buddies? Is it disgusting?